Hello and welcome. How is everybody tonight? It's that time again when we all gather around the Popelit Goat Man and tell spooky stories. Thank you for the hearts. Appreciate that. Everybody interact with the stream. Click, tap the screen, send some hearts. Hey Harry, what you doing? Share the live, comment, whatever you got to do. Just interact with it. Let's get it out there to some people so that everybody sees this. The more people we get, the more ghost stories we get. Hey.
Hey, you know what? I forgot to do something. I needed to change something really quick on my profile, so let me do that and I'll come right back.
Okay.
All right.
um, Crap. And my screen is so glitchy. Yeah, Harry, I haven't seen you in here in a while. Seems like we missed you. We had a pretty good stream last night. Last night was pretty fun. We had lots of really cool stories. Um, if you want to come up and just BS with us tonight, you can. If not, it's up to you. Um, let's see what all we got here. So, how is everybody tonight? What are you guys doing? How is your Monday going? Is it Monday? God, it feels like a Wednesday. Is this week over yet? Hey, Holly. Always good to see you. Um, let's see. I feel like my screen is off. Something isn't right here. I think I don't have you guys stacked on as many books as normal. Maybe that's what it is. Um, let's see. Guest box is open, guys. I didn't realize we had, yeah, we got a bunch of people in here. Guest box is open. If anybody wants to come up and tell a story, you can share any type of spooky story. It doesn't even have to be paranormal, but it can be paranormal. It can be extraterrestrial, cryptid. If it's glitch in the matrix, you have to wait till Chris comes back because those are his favorite. But feel free to jump in the box and come up and talk to us.
All right, I'm back.
Very, very nice. Very nice. Wow, that's pretty good. I thought you were going to Photoshop my forehead when you said that. You'll see. I was like, oh no, leave my forehead out of this.
No, no, no. Oh, Holly's timing me now. She says I'm late.
Yes, you are. You're on the brink of getting fired, Chris. Holly's going to
Well,
fire you.
this is actually early for me.
Oh, somebody says a bathroom mirror blew up on me as a kid when I was showering. My mom also saw it happen. That's pretty crazy. That is really
Hmm.
strange.
I think we've heard of similar stories to that.
I think we did have a similar story, didn't we?
Yeah.
Uh oh.
Oh,
Holly's
oh,
coming for you tonight,
oh
Chris.
man. Yeah, she's going for the throat.
Get him, Holly. Oh gosh, that's funny. Guest box is open, guys. If anybody wants to come up and tell a spooky story, feel free to hop in and tell us your spookiest of spooky stories. And if you hear like a weird little voice talking in the distance, it's my cockatoo. He is unhinged tonight. I don't know if it's like bird romance season. I suspect that it
Hmm.
is because he's been doing lots of um, romantic behavior, which is gross and weird.
Hmm. He's been singing a lot of The Weeknd and Drake.
hmm Yeah, he has. Hey, cat mama. The hangers in my closet fell and my bedroom door opened by itself.
Hmm.
Ooh, that's spooky. Was it like an old house? Like a A haunted old house, perhaps? Everybody tap the screen, send some hearts. More hearts equals more people equals more ghost stories. So we got to get some ghost stories in here. You know what I love? I love that everybody that I talk to is like, oh, this is like Art Bell, Midnight in the Desert. Did you ever listen to that, Chris?
No, what is that?
Well, it was a radio talk show, like a paranormal talk show,
Hmm.
and Art Bell would have people call in and basically tell their spooky stories.
Oh, okay.
And he had some doozies on there. He had some real doozies. Yeah,
Mhm.
Art Bell is a legend for sure.
I might have
I
seen
think
it.
they still do. Have you? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty popular. Um, yeah, I think they still do. What is it? There's some incarnation of that show still going. What do they call it now? Do they still call it Midnight in the Desert? Um, yeah, I guess they still call it that. It's kind of gone off the rails a little bit, though. I think it's not the same as it used to be. Yeah, you can listen to his old shows on YouTube. Yeah. Oh, there's been so many crazy good ones on there. I love that show. That makes me want to listen to it after the stream. A Chuck Tingle movie or novel movie. What am I thinking? Novel. I can't read good tonight for some reason. Did it really? You should come up and tell us about that. Guest box is open if anybody wants to come up and share a spooky story. Houses from the 1800s. I also saw a man kind of staring at me in confusion. Oh, that
Hmm.
is spooky. Oh, thank you. Appreciate the little heart thingamabob. You guys don't forget Chris. He's over here working hard to keep this stream running properly.
I'm
You guys
working so hard.
send him some love.
I'm like about to have a stroke from the Chinese food that I just ate. That I was busy doing.
Yeah.
You know me, I'm always eating.
Lots of ETs. Ooh, do you have ET stories? Come up and tell us. Hop in the guest box. Everybody has a story. You guys better get in here because I'll tell you what's going to happen. The same thing that always happens is
Yep.
it'll go for a minute and we won't have anybody, and then 20 people will request, and then you'll have to wait.
Yeah.
So
E.T. like E.T. Reese's Pieces.
extraterrestrials.
Don't be shy, folks, says Cat Mama.
Yeah, you guys have to listen to Cat Mama. She's the boss here.
There's too many cats on this live stream.
There are not enough cats on this live stream. We need more cats. And I'm sure, thank you for the little heart. I'm sure Bean will make an appearance as soon as he wakes up. He's in a food coma right now. But last night, I forget what guest it was we were talking to, but he was crawling around in my lap and whining, and he saw my pin that goes to my phone,
Hmm.
and he loves this thing, and he literally fought me over this pin on a live stream last night, and I was like, oh god, don't flip the phone over, but I
Yeah.
don't think anybody noticed.
He probably thinks it's a mozzarella stick.
No, he knows it's a little chewy piece of plastic.
Uh, my cat, for some reason, loves cheese. I don't know why, but anytime I'm eating cheese or like the cheese flavored Ruffles, she just
Yeah.
like comes and has to have some of it.
Yeah, cats do love cheese most of the time. Most of them do.
Yeah,
My cat loves ice cream.
my cat does too.
The cheese tax, yes.
Wow, come on, somebody come up here. We need a ghost story.
The ghost of East Carter High School's gym. I feel like maybe I've heard about something about a ghost at East Carter?
Uh-oh.
We got somebody. Hello and welcome.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. You're not driving, are you?
Yes, I am actually driving, but you are on connected to
Okay.
my Wi-Fi, whatever. Here.
Okay. I gotta drop you. I gotta drop you. Come back later when you're not driving, because that can get me bananaed. Uh, I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm sorry. I don't want to be rude, but I can get bananaed.
that wasn't me.
I might actually. Yeah,
I didn't know
we
that
can't have
actually.
anybody. We can't have anybody doing that, and also it's not safe. I don't want you to maybe be distracted. So just come back whenever you get a chance. Whenever you're safe and stopped, come back later. Um, let's see. Anybody else want to hop up though? The guest box is open. I always feel bad about that, but you have to be careful. And also, I probably need to start asking people about the age thing too, just to be sure. But we've been pretty lucky with that, so we haven't had a problem, you know. Um, I feel bad for dropping her. I'm sorry if you're still here. I'm sorry. I had
She
to.
got vaporized.
Yeah, you gotta be careful about that. Hello and welcome.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hi. I saw that you guys want some stories and um I have a lot. I'm Native American and
Hmm.
I have had a lot of crazy things. I don't know what it is with the reservation, but crazy things always seem to happen here.
Hmm.
And the one, I mean, I have a ton of stories. I have a lot of experience with Bigfoot, uh, aliens, and then I know like the one thing that's like crazy or not crazy, but like popular now is like, oh, it's a skinwalker and blah blah blah. And I grew up with them, like literally, like they were when I was growing up. Um, they were our how would you say like not so much our boogeyman, but like they used to like to taunt us kids.
Hmm.
So I have a bunch of stories about them. But the one I'm gonna choose today is actually from my brother. And my brother used to be a wildland firefighter. And when he was up, the mountain is called Mount Taylor. It's in Flagstaff. And during this time, um, the new recruits, they would just sleep outside, no tents. They would just sleep in a mattress, or not a mattress. I mean, a sleeping bag. And so a whole bunch of them were sleeping, um, in a whole collective, I guess you could say, a whole bunch of people. And he said he was like just sound asleep. I guess that day they were clearing trees. They were doing fire control and making sure that, they didn't have an active fire, but they were doing preventative measures, which is mostly they have to when there's new growth or something, they go into an area and they clear out old debris at the bottom, and then they clear out 3 feet and of branches, so that if a fire does go through, it doesn't like actually set the whole tree on fire. Anyway, so he said they were doing this that whole entire summer, and so he said, he spent the whole summer up on the mountain. They were just sleeping, and he was asleep, and he said he heard what woke him up was he heard like a sound, like a ringing, like a ding a ling a ling a ling a ling kind of sound. And he was like, what in the world? And he opened up his eyes, and he didn't move his body, but he opened up his eyes. And that's when he said he saw an entity. Um And I don't know if you guys are with native, you know, goddesses, or not that goddesses, but like gods. But we have not Navajo. Me and my brother were Navajo, but this particular entity was actually from Apache. So we're literally like we're literally opposing tribes. There's a lot of bad juju between both of our tribes because a long time ago there was a lot of war parties that would kill Navajos, kidnap Navajos, and then Navajos did the same thing back and forth. So a lot of Navajos nowadays, we don't like Apaches. And so it was very strange that my brother saw this particular entity because it was an entity that is in our tribe. And so anyway, so he wakes up and he sees what he described as, and you guys probably have to Google image this. It's called an Apache crown dancer. And they're known for like you know, I don't know if you've ever been to the Southwest, but they do dances, like they do dances during certain times of the year, and they have a headdress that looks I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a wooden frame that's painted in certain colors to where it looks like, oh my god, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just like you have to Google image it. It's called Apache crown dancer. But my brother, of course, living in the Southwest, we've seen a lot of, you know, different tribes when they dance. You know, Navajo have different types of regalia, and just so like a PSA, don't ever call it costumes. We call it regalia. You know, the more popular regalia is the powwow dancers, but Navajo, we have our own type. Apache have their own type. The Pueblo tribes have their own type. And so we grew up, you know, seeing these different types. And he immediately saw it and he said, that looks like the closest thing I've ever seen to an Apache crown dancer. But he said it was huge. And he said, I had been sleeping in this spot for, you know, a very long time. And I knew how tall these trees were. And he said, this, whatever it was, he said it was huge. And he said it had this headdress. I didn't even like I said, just Google the image it. He said, but the headdress, he said it was lit up. And he said it was like there was no sound coming from it, but if their light made sound, it was like doo, ding, 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 ding. Like it was just different lights were turning on and off. And he said it was walking amongst the different people who were sleeping, the different firefighters. And he said it would walk up to one of them. He said he would look down, and then he said it was like inches from their face. And he said then it'd get up, and then it will walk over to another person looking down. And then he said eventually, he said, oh man, he said it kept getting closer and closer to me. And he said I had such a bad feeling. And he was like, I'm just gonna go like pretend that I'm asleep, because if I react, he said, I think something bad is gonna happen. And so he said he just closed his eyes, and then he could hear it, because that little ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling sound, it kept getting closer, which is crazy because when the Apache crown dancers, when they dance, they have bells on their feet, which make a similar sound, like a choo 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 choo, like that. And he said it was completely silent, and only thing you could hear was that little ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling, that bell kind of sound. And he said it was walking up to all of them. He said, well, look at them, but he said it wouldn't interact with them. It was just looking at them. and it was moving from person to person to person. And he said finally it came up to him, and he said he could feel it standing over him. His eyes were closed, and he was just like paralyzed with fear. He said, I couldn't, like, what could I do? He said, at that point, he was like, what I'm dealing with is a God. There's a God standing over me right now. And he was like, I have to be reverent. I have to be humble. And if I, try to act defensive or, scared or whatever, he was like, it's something bad is going to happen. So he just closed his eyes, and he said the ringing sound was really close to his face. And then he said it got up, it went, and it walked over to another person. And it was just going person to person to person to person. And then he said eventually, it just walked off into the woods. And I don't know if you guys know this, but the particular mountain that my brother was working on, Mount Taylor, which we have our own name for it in my language, Dosli, and this is one of at least 6 sacred mountains. And the reason why we consider it sacred is because we see it as the territory of our gods, which is why, and we shouldn't be on that mountain. And my brother, he had a hard time, like when they told him, oh, you're going to be working on this mountain. And he was like, we shouldn't be on there. But then at the same time, it was his job. And so he was like, okay, I'll just do it. And so, in our culture, we shouldn't be on that mountain at all because it's the territory of the gods. And like I said, there's 6 mountains in our tribe that we see as the land or the territory of our gods. And I think it was really fortunate that he was able to actually see our gods, like actually visually see them, even though he wasn't, for him it was really scary because it wasn't of our tribe. But in terms of, full on, the entire Native American tribe, I think it was pretty cool that he got to see that, and I think it's really privileged. But I don't know if you ever had a story like that.
No, that's the first time we've ever heard one like that. I'm pretty sure that's really unique, and it's cool, but it's a little creepy. But like, wow.
Yeah, I thought I would just add that kind of cool. Like this probably, I mean, like I said, I have a lot of stories, but that was one of them that was just kind of like, it always kind of like popped out for me.
Yeah, definitely. Did you say you had like extraterrestrial stories and stuff as well? I mean, you can share more than one if you want, if you feel like it. You don't have to, but you can. Feel
Um,
free.
yeah, I do. I'll start with my weak sauce, my weak sauce story. Um, this is when, so I have had an encounter with what they call like a UFO, probably, and I'm really bad about like measurements, but I don't know, maybe 20, 30 feet above my head, to the point where I could actually see the person inside or someone inside. I don't know if it was something. I just saw a silhouette. But I'll start with the um the first, not the first, but like the um furthest I've ever experienced them. So when I was a young kid, I was probably like probably about 10 years old or somewhere on that age. I, on the reservation, I would say about at least 50, maybe even more percent of the reservation does not have any running water. It does not have any electricity. So a lot of the reservation, we just use candlelight or we use propane, like little propane lighters or butane, sorry. And so that means if you go outside at night, it is dark. It is really, really dark because there's no external light outside. And one night, I don't know, I think I was just being a brat or something, and I got into an argument with my parents, and I was like throwing a tantrum, and I went and I ran outside, and my refuge was my dogs. And so I ran outside and I just like plopped myself in front of the house, and all my dogs came over to me and I was petting them. And I don't know, I don't even remember what started this, but I was like emotional and crying and whatever, being dramatic pretty much. And I was my parents not my parents, actually my dad. My dad, uh he used to really like to stargaze. Like not stargaze, but like look at this, like look at the sky. And he always used to track when there was like meteor showers and stuff. And I remember that night he told us there was a meteor shower, and we went out for a few hours, but I think we were too early or something and we didn't see a whole lot. And so we went back inside, and then when I had this whole, dramatic phase, I went back outside, and I was just like out there. And like I said, it's just pitch black. And we don't have any lights outside, so I'm just sitting outside, and I see outside this light up in the sky. And it was like it wasn't close. It was like, just like if you see like an airplane flying over. And in this region, we see a lot of plane activity, to the point where we actually have pilots that fly over our house, and they're really close. Like you can literally, like when you're standing there, like I'd be outside, and we have livestock. I'd be outside feeding cows or something, and then the plane would fly so low, and I could literally see the pilot, and I would wave at him. And so we're really, really used to, low flying aircraft. And, but they never came at night. But this particular night, I just see lights. And we used to see like, like jets going by. We could tell if it was a plane. We could tell like the differences between the different aircraft that are flying by. Anywho's, but I see this light, and I thought, I was like, that looks like a star. And I don't know if people know much about like stars and stuff like that, but there's a planet that shines really bright. They call it like the dust, I think they call it the dust star or something like that. Anyway, but it's really bright, and a lot of people think it's like spooky, but it's actually a planet. But then as it starts to get darker, it disappears. But at this time of night, it was so bright, and I saw it, and I was like, why is that so bright? And I was like, that's where that planet is usually, but it's not normally here at this time of night. And I see it, and then it was like looked like a really bright planet. And then suddenly, as I'm like thinking this, it just like almost like if you have lights that have the auto dim or the dimmable setting, you like turn the brightness up, and it turns on, and it just got really bright and really intense. And I was like, what in the world? And I was like, that's not a star. And I was like thinking, oh my God, am I seeing like a supernova? Supernova? And then it goes dim again. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, okay, it's not a supernova. Like, what is that? And I just see it like go bright, and then it would go really dim to almost where I couldn't even see it anymore. And then suddenly it just goes, zoop, it just like flies across the sky. Like, it had to have been like miles and miles, and it was like in a second. It was flying across, and I was like, what in the world? And I was like, okay, that's definitely not a planet. It's not planets don't move. And then we live. I wouldn't say we're not close by. We're within like maybe 300 miles to the local Air Force base. But I see two jets, and I know there are jets because we recognize when there's jets versus airplanes or commercial planes going by. And they're flying in hot. They just go straight towards where that little light is. And this is when I saw like a game of cat and mouse. The jets go flying straight towards the light, and then the light was really bright, and then it just goes dim. The jets fly right past it, and then I just see them like make a huge U-turn, like the cartoons, like. I just see them like hurry up and turn around as fast as they can, make a big old U-turn, and they start flying back, and then all of a sudden that light, boom, it pops up in a whole nother portion of the sky. And it's really bright, and then those jets, they start flying towards it, and then the light goes dim. And they did this probably about maybe 5 minutes. And I wish I had like at the time I didn't have a phone, and even if I did have a phone, like phones back then, it would have been like you wouldn't have even been able to see it. But yeah, they did this about for like 5 minutes, and I was like, oh my gosh, and I was like, they're playing like a cat and mouse game, whatever is, doing this, and it would just do that whenever the jets would fly towards it, the light would just dim, and then the jets would fly past it like they didn't see it, and then all of a sudden the light would pop up in a whole nother place and it'd be really bright, and it just kept doing that back and forth, and then finally, I'm assuming like the jets, maybe they ran out of fuel or something like that, and then they just like turn, and I just see them drive, or not driving, but flying back to Albuquerque, which is the closest Air Force base. And I was just kind of laughing to myself, and I was like, whatever that light is, it's just taunting them.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like
hilarious.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I wonder if they were chasing something or testing something.
Yeah, I wonder. I really, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, with all the news that's come out in the last couple of years about UAPs and military flight personnel, whatever, seeing these things, I would say that they were probably chasing it down. That's pretty cool. I've always wanted to stargaze in that region of the country, because you can see so much better, I feel like, and there's so much more activity close to all those bases and stuff. So that's really cool.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot more activity, and like, I mean, well, like I said, we're probably like 2, maybe 300 miles away from a base, but we would see a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's still pretty close when you consider, how fast the jets and the planes and all the aircraft and stuff are. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
that's a good seat to have to see all the crazy stuff they do. Well, we appreciate you so much coming up and sharing your stories with us, and I'm going to be thinking about that first one for a long time. That was really neat too.
well, it's always interesting to always hear different kind of perspectives. I always listen to a lot of different paranormal stories, like through podcasts and whatnot, and it's just kind of like, oh, I'm like, oh, okay, that's like, putting a name to to whatever it was that you saw, because like
Hmm.
you see things, but then you're like, what in the world, like what was that? And then as I'm listening to more and more podcasts, I'm like, oh, okay, that's like a shadow person, or like, you know what was the one I heard recently was Wolfman or something like that. And
Dog
I was like,
Man,
oh,
probably.
Dogman, yeah, that's what it was,
Yeah.
Dogman. And I was just like, oh, okay. And I was like, and the one I actually just heard it today. It was somebody, what is it? The podcast is like Monsters Among Us or something like that. Um not
Yeah, I
trying to
think I
plug them
know.
in, but I
Yeah.
hear a lot of stories. But then the one I heard today was somebody saw pretty much they saw a prehistoric sloth, and I was like, what? That's like a first I've ever heard of that.
Yeah, I've heard of that
Yeah,
before.
wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it was actually something that existed, but it's extinct now.
Yep.
But they believe that it still exists somewhere. I forgot the details, but yeah, no, I've heard of that before.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I never heard it before, and I was like, the way they were describing. So my background is I'm a veterinary technician. But I have been working in the zoo world for a while, so I pretty much, through osmosis, have learned a lot of zoological, terms, and learned a lot about animals. So it's always interesting for me, like when I hear these type of people like describing certain animals and whatnot. And the one that I heard today, and I was like, okay, and I'm kind of like a prehistoric nerd, and I'm like, oh, okay, like he's describing, I'm like, that sounds exactly like a prehistoric sloth that existed in North America like many, many years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Um,
Was the description of it like real big? Because I've heard that there were giant sloths, and there's actually like a whole rabbit hole you can go down with the giant sloth bodies, the
Oh,
skeletons and stuff.
yeah, yeah, the person, it was kind of like, this is fresh in my memory. And I wish I could remember the person's name, but all I know is that they were on that podcast. And I think I'm in season 8. I'm behind, but the person was actually from the UK, so they actually thought they saw a bear, and they were like, "Oh my god, it's a bear! I've never seen a bear before." And then like, wait, it's way bigger. It's way way bigger, and they said it was like looked like it was walking on its knuckles, and it had really long talons. And then they said its head looked like a horse, and I was like, that sounds exactly like the sloth. And
Yeah.
I guess like the way I kind of put these together is because a lot of my elders in my tribe, they describe certain types of animals. Um, like for instance, a lot of people don't know, but up here in northern Arizona, we used to have parrots. We used to have jaguars, sloths. A lot of these, and a lot of it has been passed down through oral history. And then, pardon the term, but uh, white white people, white scientists are like finally confirming all the knowledge that our ancestors have been telling us this whole entire time, and they have been discounted just because there's a disconnect from indigenous knowledge to the white science. But yeah, I'm starting to see that bridge now, and I'm like, oh, okay, like and I get into I get into little arguments with my own boss, who he's from the zoological, classic colonizer education, and I'm like telling him like, oh yeah, we have stories of that, and he's like, no, no, you're like just trying to discount it, and I'm like, is it discounted just because it's from a brown person? Like, what in the world?
Yeah.
So I see that that disconnect, and how even like I see the ridicule that eyewitnesses get when they see something that doesn't make sense, like for instance the sloth. um Even me, I would be like, what in the world, like a sloth? But then I was like, oh, maybe. And I believe in time slips, and I'm like, okay, maybe it was that. It's kind of, you never know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah, it's
definitely.
always very strange, hearing about these type of things. And even within my own what, at least 2, maybe 3 generations, we have stories of cave bears, which are considered prehistoric animals, mammoths. All of this is a lot of indigenous knowledge, but it's discounted. And so I can see why, there's eyewitnesses, people who are seeing paranormal things, um, and they're just being discounted because, it's not conventional.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to take too much. I see people are commenting like they want to tell their story, so I figure I probably took enough of your guys' time.
Well, we appreciate you so much, and your stories were awesome. And hopefully, you'll stick around, hang out here with us, and maybe come back another time.
Oh yeah, for sure. I see your lives pop up, and I've been wanting to join, and finally today I had the chance.
Awesome. Awesome. We're glad you did.
Okay. All right. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
All right. Bye.
Let's see. Did we. Oh, there was something I was going to say. There was. Oh, I always forget. I need to like write stuff down. Sometimes I do write stuff down, but there was something that jogged my memory, and I was like, I want to mention that, but forgot what it was.
Yeah, there's the
I'm so
okay.
scatterbrained when I'm doing the lives. I'm like all over, like pushing buttons and like keeping up with everything, and it's hard to stay on one path forward. So, hello and welcome.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good.
Good. How are you doing?
Good. I came across your live a week or so ago, I think, and it was too late. You were just closing up shop and get a chance to tell my story, but I thought it'd be fun. It's not too long of a story, actually. I'm in Southern California, and I was living in a place called Tribuco Canyon, and at the time I had my place, and I had a gal that I was dating at the time. We were very close at the time, and we're just hanging out at my place, and she had to leave, and it was the end of the night. And I went ahead and I laid down in my bed. I'm just kind of a little tired, laid down, closed my eyes a little bit, and then I opened my eyes, and what I thought was her standing above me, there, and I was like, I asked her, "What are you doing back here?" And I noticed, like, because I was like kind of drifting to sleep barely, but I was still awake, and I noticed it was a blue woman hovering above me in my bed, smiling at me. And I'm like, at this point, I'm kind of just like a little freaked out, but kind of like, as I went to just kind of feel her face, my hand went right through her face, and then she evaporated in front of me. And later on, I found out and read a little bit about the blue woman entity that I feel may have been that case and scenario that happened to me. And it was just, so as soon as my hand went through her face, like I just kind of sat up into it as that happened. And I was like, that wasn't a dream. That was real. You were awake for that. Your hand went through her face consciously, and she did evaporate in front of you. And that was my true paranormal experience, I guess, that I've went through in my life. It was wild. It was interesting. I walked around my apartment for like, 10 minutes after that, just kind of not really freaking out, but just kind of walking around like that just happened to me. That really just happened to me. Holy moly, that just happened to me. And,
So I take it that's your very first experience with the paranormal.
I would say so. Yeah, I mean, you hear people's stories about, their paranormal experiences, and not everyone gets to experience something like that. And for it to be kind of so real in front of you and to actually experience it, it's like something that you would never expect to see or happen to yourself, And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know much about the Blue Woman entity, but I do know that there has been sightings of such thing from other people that have talked about it. And yeah, it was pretty interesting. If you guys are open, I could tell you a really close friend from Brazil never told anybody this story, and he had told me a story about his alien experience in Brazil. It's kind of freaky, actually. He was younger. We were talking about aliens, him and I, and he kind of just he lived. This is not the type of guy who would just make up a story. He's very straightforward and just not that type of person. And This story actually brought him to tears, which really just kind of drove me crazy. It was like, wow, I can't believe that he's telling me this. So he was in Brazil, in São Paulo, with his mother on their farm, and he says that he was younger, but his mom still would tell the story to this day. And because he was like 8 or something, and aliens came onto his farm, and they were paralyzed, and the aliens literally paralyzed him on the couch, and they walked around his apartment. They didn't harm him. They didn't do anything to them, but him and his mother were unable to move and unable to even react until they had their little look around, and then they left. And then, I heard about some of the stories from Brazil that came out after that. It was, I found that quite interesting, his story. And he's not a storyteller, he's not at all. So I believed him when he told it to me, some crazy stuff out there, I guess.
Yeah, there are actually quite a few really good UFO cases from Brazil. There's one about a farmer that I covered years ago. It's pretty interesting. If you ever get bored, you want something to Google and read about, just read some UFO incidents from Brazil. Australia has some good ones too. But very neat, very interesting, very scary.
Well, I appreciate you letting me share. That was my experience, and I'm glad to share it.
Yeah, we appreciate you. Thanks for coming on.
All right, thanks, guys.
Everybody tap the screen, send some hearts, get some people in here. More people means more ghost stories. What are you doing down there, Chris? What are you doing?
No, I'm listening. I'm working, but listening. I
Yeah.
noticed that when I'm working on my masks or whatever, I tend to listen better for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, I figured I'd try that tonight, and I think it's working.
Very cool.
And
Whatever works.
yeah, and you know what? I was gonna tell that again. I know you said it's cool, but I'm scared of talking over you. But I was gonna tell that girl about the. I'm pretty sure you've heard of the Thunderbirds. Um, but then I was gonna tell her about those flying dinosaurs that some people claim to see, and I think that's pretty interesting.
You've got to quit teasing me about that. Listen, that guy was going in a very weird direction, and he was being very, very not okay. And that's the only reason that I said that. I don't care if you talk over me.
Well, just in
Stop
general.
teasing me. You know what? You know what's funny is that I watch a lot of male creators on here,
Uh-huh.
and they're always like real testy about that. And they they yell at their guests and they say whatever they want. Nobody ever teases them about it, but it's like I do it, and I'm never gonna let down.
Yeah. What are those flying dinosaurs called? I feel really stupid that I can't remember.
Pterodactyls.
There you go.
Pterodactyl.
Yeah, because Harry's asking about it.
Well, there are quite a few flying dinosaurs, but that's
Like the
probably
main
the
one.
most popular one. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably a man-like creature with a thunderbird face. That
Wow.
sounds confusing. Um,
A Birdman.
a Birdman, yeah. I think isn't there like a Birdman cryptid? I feel like there might be.
I'm
Am I
gonna have to.
imagining that? What's a Thunderbird? Um. Well, it may or may not be a cryptid. Um. Yeah, it does kind of sound like Mothman, doesn't it?
Well, that's a Birdman, I think. Because
Is
he's
it
not a
though?
moth.
But why do they call him Birdman instead of Mothman if he's
Well, okay, fine. I guess that's true.
I also know what a thunder chicken is. A Ford thunder chicken. That's what we used to call them anyway, where I grew up at. Yeah, Thunderbird did come from Native American mythology or lore. Yeah. Guest box is open, guys. If everybody wants to come up and tell the story, um, we would greatly appreciate it. If anybody has a glitch in the Matrix story for Chris, that would make him extremely happy.
I'm surprised we don't get
Um,
more of those.
yeah, I think what were we? We were kind of on something last night. What was our most common theme
Like
last
psychic.
night? Yeah, I think we had a lot of psychic stuff going on last night.
Yeah.
Maybe tonight. I don't know. It doesn't seem like we're really in any part of the algorithm just yet. Uh,
Mm,
Maybe
yeah.
we'll make our way to the Loch Ness monster talk before it's over, but we'll see.
I don't, I don't think so, but yeah, maybe.
I know it's never going to happen. Let me dream, Chris. Let me dream.
Go ahead. Hi, Lisa.
Hi,
Hello and welcome.
how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good. I'm just nervous to talk about my stories, but I have lots of them.
Yeah.
When I was little, we lived in this house, and we had all the twist lights that would twist on. And one night I was really sick. I was born in the 70s, so it was kind of like my parents couldn't hear me, and every single light in the house came on. I was crying, I was sick, and my mom and dad were like, "What's going on?" Like, so they woke up, and every single twist light downstairs in the whole house, like about 50 lights were on. And so my mom and dad would say that the house was like haunted. And so my mom was talking to one of the neighbors, and the lady, I guess, told my mom that before like they moved in, a lady hung herself in the garage. And she was a mother, and she would always just like watch over me, I guess. So like anytime I needed anything, all the lights in the house would come on. It was very strange, but um the dryer would go off by itself. I just have haunted stories, but my mom said that it ran in our family, that we had these experiences because it started with her grandma and ended up being passed on to my aunt and a couple other siblings. And they ended up always moving around a lot for my grandpa's work. And one time they moved into this old farmhouse, and they was like ready to go, go into the house, and she wouldn't go in. She saw a guy at the top of the stairs. She told my grandpa, and my grandpa's like, "Don't be silly, get in the house." And it took her like a half an hour before she went in the house. But like every time they would go in the house, like there would be, my grandma said she heard balls going down the stairs, like boom, 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 boom. And so she never went upstairs because she said she saw a man at the top of the stairs. But my uncle, which was like 8 years younger than all the siblings, ended up later on telling my mom that he had an imaginary friend, and he'd play with him. Being a 5-year-old, he'd play with him like every single day, and he never asked him why he was there in his house, which is always strange to me when you find out like you have an imaginary friend in your house. Like you wonder, like, why do these people not say like, how'd you end up in my house? So he would end up playing with him all day and said, "Why don't you go change your clothes? I got clothes for you." He was dressed in like kind of like a white. My mom said that she interviewed him later on. He was wearing like a white shirt, kind of like back in the 1800s type of deal. And one time he ended up saying, like, the little boy said, "I have to go home. I have to go home." So my uncle ran up. My uncle said he floated all the way upstairs, and he went into the attic door. He opened up the door, and he ended up floating across the beams of the attic into a bassinet. And after that, my uncle was terrified. He was like, I don't want to play with you anymore. And the little boy got so mad at my uncle that one time he was downstairs and the whole entire house shook and the glass sounded like it broke. And my grandma and him went outside and they looked up at the attic window and they saw that old man, and his name was Louis, the little boy, just laughing hysterically at him, and he never saw him ever again. So it was like, so many stories like that have happened with my mom, and then went to me, and then it went to my kids. So it's kind of like an interesting story that we all have some type of paranormal happening in our lineage. So I'm wondering if anybody has that in their like starting from birth till now. And I'm 50, so it's like always happening.
Yeah, I don't know. We haven't really had anybody talk about it, but yeah, I'm sure a lot of people do experience, persistent paranormal activity, I guess you'd call it.
It's always happening. It's like like my daughter, she said that she's like, before I met you, she's like, I was waiting for you forever, Mom. And I'm like, okay. She's like, I would look down from heaven. And then she's like, she was little at the time when she was just saying, she's like, I looked down from heaven and I saw you and Daddy getting married, and I was jealous that you wouldn't give me as much attention as, like, she always says these weird little stories and clips. And she said one time, she's like, I was at school and a little boy said he wanted to come home with me. The same story as that, my mom's like, I wanted to come home with you. And my daughter's like, you can come home with me, but you have to stay away from everybody else, and you have to stay in the bathroom. And that's the only place that I'm going to allow you to stay. And the little boy goes, well, you know what? We met in the bathroom, so that's where I'm going to, like, at school. I'm like, okay. So she says, she's like, oh yeah, he's here. And I'm like, I totally believe her, because there's so many coincidences that have happened to me that one terrified me to death. Like, I was at our old house in Plymouth. I live in Michigan, and my husband, which was my boyfriend at the time, he ended up going to visit his friends in Ohio, and I'm home by myself. And we had a 150-year-old house, which was a duplex at the time, and there's other people. But one night I got woken up at like 3 a.m, and I heard him. I mean, it was his voice. He's like, honey, I'm home. And I'm like, I woke up, and he's like, I'm home. And I'm like, why are you home? It's 3 a.m, and he's like, I'm home early. And so all of a sudden something jumped on my bed, and like I could feel like the paws, like it was like it felt like a cat, but it was like the weirdest feeling. And all of a sudden my whole entire chest, like I got so scared that I just passed out. Like, it was the most terrifying thing. Like, it wasn't a good feeling. It was kind of like a scary feeling of something like on my bed, and it was like I could feel it pawing me. So I'm like, what the hell? Sorry. But
Wow. Yeah, that would freak me out too, for sure.
and one time, like, we went to go see the Key West ghost stories, my husband and I, but we weren't married, but my boyfriend at the time, my husband now, and we went to go see the Key West ghost stories. And what's that little boy? What's that doll? Robert. He wasn't. Do you know about Robert the doll?
I don't think so.
Okay, Robert the doll was like given to this little boy like back in the 1800s by his aunt, and it was from like England or something. And this Robert the doll would like there's some stories out there, like there's a movie, I think, and Robert the doll, like, he's in one of those museums now, kind of like the Raggedy Ann doll, like, kind of kept in a glass, and it's in Key West, and they keep him in there because like it's a haunted possession, kind of like all those other dolls that are kind of possessed or something. But like I wanted to see it so bad, and I'm like, oh, they wouldn't, something bad happened, like with tours, so they just took it off the thing. So I was in the house one day, and I'm like, I really wish I could have saw that. Like, I really wanted to see that doll. All of a sudden, the TV goes totally crazy. I mean, like 1980s crazy, like just flashing, going screens and over and over again, like little lines. All of a sudden, it turns to Robert the Doll, Key West Ghost Stories. If you didn't get to see this, here's Robert the Doll. And I'm like, oh, thanks. So like weird things like that have always happened to me. Like things have popped up on TVs, and I was like, how did that happen? I told my husband, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's Robert the Doll's on TV. And he's like, oh yeah, whatever. But I mean, my daughter is scared to death to sleep by herself. She won't sleep by herself. She's almost 13, and she's like, I see things out of the corner of my eye all the time, Mom, and I can't sleep because they're in the room. And I'm like, I can't let you sleep by yourself. Like, I mean, I know she's telling the truth. She's like, I'm just purely scared. And I'm like, okay. So, being me, I always have like tourmaline crystals and quartz crystals and all this stuff, like protection and stuff. I've always been kind of like a crystal person. So, but you know, I was getting to the point where and then my son was like, look over there, Mom, someone's hanging from the chandelier. And I'm like, what? And my son's like, yeah, he told me that he died in a motel in a fire, and it was burning down, and he was like 3 years old. So like my husband doesn't believe anything we say, but like it always seems to happen to just us, us three, my child, my two kids, and myself. So there's always something going on, but I don't know. It's how, I guess it's it's my mom was talking to her grandma, and she's like, if something happens to you, just don't say anything, because people will look at you weird. And so, I mean, I was always afraid to say something, and I always knew that there's something going on, maybe because every time I'm out in my garden, like everybody comes up to me, and by the time they leave my garden, they're like my best friend. Like they're like, give me a hug. What's your phone number? We love you. Remember me? Like, I'm like, hi. They're like, remember me? This is my dog, Hank. Remember? And I'm like, yeah, I remember you. Like everybody just loves talking to me, except for my kid. Like it's just like a drawing energy, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I project some energy that spirits like. I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like you've definitely got some kind of something's attracting them.
I know. And my daughter telling me this, I'm like, don't invite them home. I'm like, she's like, this was just a couple years ago. So she was like 10 and telling me this. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like she usually, like at that age, they kind of dissipate. But, she was like, I see them. And I'm like, that's weird. But, I get some weird, crazy things happening every now and then. But we kind of live by an Indian. We live right behind the Huron River, which I was watching one of the ghost stories on TV, and they were like showing my town. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my town. And I guess they were showing like the Native American where they used to live. And I'm like, I'm wondering if they built our house on one of these, like, I mean, we don't live in that 150-year-old house anymore, but we live in a different house. But I'm wondering if like the Native Americans had burial grounds or something, and they like kind of like the poltergeist thing, where they built our house on an Indian burial ground. I'm like, I just have like the Native American feel towards the backyard of my house, so it's kind of weird because it faces the Huron River, so it's kind of interesting.
Very interesting. You should keep a journal of all the events in place or something.
I know, and like in my cousin, like my mom's side, my cousin was, he was like 3 years old or something, and it was kind of down the street from that 150-year-old house. Like we ended up kind of moving near them, and they said that an old like he would wake up in the middle of the night, and he'd tell his mom, like, why am I like tucked in, like, snug as a bug in a rug? Like, he would be tucked in like so hard that he couldn't even move his arms. And he woke up one morning to look, or one night looking out, and he saw an old farmer and his wife just staring at him, just like all the time. Just he'd wake up and he'd be snug as a bug, tight. He couldn't even move his little arms because he was like tucked in so tight, and they would just be looking at him. And his mom, my aunt, would went into the township and found that in the 1800s or early 1900s or something like that, an old farmer and their wife lived there, and they were like, she did some research too, and that they actually did live there, and exactly the same picture that he saw. He's like, yep, that's them. So there's always something weird going on in my family. But yeah, I definitely should keep a journal.
Yeah.
I have all this in my head, and it's just like my mom, she ended up writing a book because of her childhood and all the weird stories that happened in their farmhouse. So
Yeah, I just want to point out too, one of our first guests for the Not to Not was she's Native American, and she said in the comments that Indian burial grounds is not a thing. We don't create cemeteries like Westerners do. And that's, I'm glad she is here to correct that, because actually I hear that a lot, and I always try to just
that's good to know.
kind of stray away from that because that's, it's actually a fallacy. So I'm glad she was here to chime in on that. Well, we really appreciate you coming up. It sounds like you got so much going on. Hopefully you'll stick around with us and keep us updated and let us know.
Thanks for letting me share. I've never shared with anybody before like that. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Have a good night.
You too.
Right, I think you were next. Hello and welcome.
How are we doing today?
Good, how are you?
Oh, good. Well, I think it's really cool what you're doing. I think it's always awesome to hear other people's ghost stories. We can all learn something from each other. We can have all different experiences, and it's so amazing. This stuff is endlessly fascinating. So I think it's really good to kind of bring awareness to that.
Yep.
So
you got a spooky story for us?
Oh, I got plenty. I've been investigating the paranormal for over 14 years now. It changed my life ever since I got involved with it. Well, I just filmed a documentary like a few nights ago. Actually, I could tell you just something that briefly, it literally just happened to me. We spent the night in an old 1800 cemetery in the middle of nowhere in like the woods, and there was a lot of claimed paranormal activity that takes place there. And we filmed there, and we actually put a tent up and slept overnight. We had a lot of really creepy, weird things happen throughout the night, but probably the worst part was trying to sleep in the tent. Now, I'm also sensitive to spirits. So during the night while I was sleeping in the tent, I was just constantly woken up with like a barrage of visions. The first one was I heard like a witch-like cackle. It woke me up, and then I turned, looking around the tent, went back to sleep again, and then the second time I heard a little girl start to laugh. Same thing, passed out asleep. And then the third time, it was like I had a vision that the door to the tent actually opened up, and I was trying to wake up my filmmaker buddy next to me, like saying, why is the front of the tent open? And then woke up again with the chills. And then the last time I had this like vision of this black wolf watching us from the woods, maybe like 100 feet away from the tent. And I just could not freaking sleep. It was like something was just around us at all times. But it was definitely an interesting night. I've never actually slept overnight in a cemetery before. But that's pretty creepy. Actually, since you're talking about haunted dolls, I'll actually tell you a quick story. I actually believe that the demon from the Annabelle doll followed me home once before. Now, I have some video evidence to kind of back up my experience. But I was actually at an event they were throwing with the Annabelle doll in Connecticut. and I was actually live streaming at the time when Periscope used to be a thing, if you can actually remember that. And we were filming in front of the Annabelle doll, and all of a sudden we realized that the latch that holds the case that Annabelle resides inside came unloose. And I'm looking at one of the individuals of Nesper, and which is the paranormal team that Ed and Lorraine Warren from the Conjuring movie started. And we both looked at each other. It was just kind of weird. Didn't think anything of it. Kind of just like was like a weird, eerie thing. But actually, what happened was that was a Saturday night. So on Sunday night at my old apartment, I had a vision of this young girl with brunette hair, black eyes, and fangs, and just like saliva noises coming out of her mouth, floating left and right next to my bed, and then reaches out with her hands to grab my neck. And I woke up with the chills. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, mind you, is that Milford, Connecticut? I live in Connecticut. Mind you, I go to so many creepy places all the time that could have came from anywhere. So then I ended up in Gettysburg. I traveled to Gettysburg like a day or two afterwards, and I was in the bloodiest area of the battle. It's called Devil's Den in Gettysburg, and I was live streaming, and all of a sudden it said in a row in the spirit box, Annabelle upstairs nightmare. And in that moment, I realized that that's probably where this thing came from, was from the doll. And so what I did is I went back on the video to figure out what happened to me, if there's any other evidence to any clue. And literally there's a growl on the video when I was in front of the doll, and it said, a little girl's voice said, "See you in your bedroom." And I just was like, wow, this is like unbelievable. So after this, I went to one member to tell him what happened. And he said, that's really creepy, because that same night when they brought the doll back on that Saturday night to the museum, the Warren Occult Museum, is that there's a St. Michael metal latch that was on top of the doll case, and it flew across the museum. So with everything incorporated, what happened to me, I do believe that the evil spirit associated with that doll did follow me home. I don't know why. But it did. And if you want to watch that video, just type in Annabelle Followed Me Home on like YouTube or something. It's even on my TikTok, but that was definitely a creepy, weird thing I had with one of those infamous creepier dolls.
Yeah, that's pretty terrifying.
Yeah, I've had my share of like dark spirits. I've been doing this for a long time, and it's just, it comes along with the territory, unfortunately. But it's not a game. These things can really mess up your life. They can get into your head psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually. So that's the most delicate part of the paranormal. So you got to be careful if these things are invited in somehow. So it's really good to be knowledgeable of how these things can come at you in your life, and how they can amplify any sort of negative emotion within an individual from the shadows, where you'd ultimately be in trouble yourself or want to do something negative in any nature.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we really appreciate you coming up. That's a pretty spooky story. I was trying to think if we don't normally have a lot of haunted dolls. I think, Chris, we got our theme for tonight. It's going to be haunted objects.
Hey, yeah, sounds good to me.
I just jumped on that because someone mentioned a haunted doll. I'm like, oh, Robert the Doll is a famous haunted doll. So obviously I thought about Annabelle.
Yeah, every time I do one of it's always like somehow there's a theme. Sometimes it's Hat Man. Usually it's Hat Man. But yeah, so really interesting. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Absolutely. I think it's great what you're doing. I think it's good that everyone shares stories. I figured just jump on and contribute a little something.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Sarah.
Yeah.
Talking about Annabelle, what are your thoughts on the Warrens?
Really, Chris? Really?
What? I just want to know. I want to be educated. Educate me.
We have talked about the Warrens on this stream before. You know how I feel about them.
Oh,
Um, I mean, you know, so here's the thing: they made the paranormal mainstream. They contributed normalizing the paranormal. But as far as their authenticity, let me just pull something up here because this is what every time I see this or read this anywhere, I'm always like, does nobody like ever stop and think about? This is kind of weird. They said that they hang on, let me Google it. So if you look at how many cases, and I know they have a team and all, you know, like that, they had like the parapsychical research team or whatever.
yeah.
But the amount of cases that they claim to have worked on, even for multiple people, would have been impossible. Um, let's see, it's saying it's not pulling up like what they claimed that they yearly, you know, like their yearly number, but it's saying like well over 10,000 cases during their career. If you do the math on that, it's not really possible.
Yeah.
I think yearly, last time, it's been years. Me and Rebecca talked about this on the old stream. If you do the math yearly for what they claimed, it was like 5 to 10 cases a day, is what they were claiming that they handled. And
Uh-huh.
I don't know how that's possible. I've been a ghost hunter for a long time, and I don't know how that's possible. But um, let's see here. We got a couple people. Actually, we got 3 people waiting. I'm not sure who was next. Do you want to get the next one?
Uh, yeah. Let me do it. All right. Let me pick someone. Hey, Mike. Mike, are you with us? I'm going to give him a few seconds. All right. I'm going to have to bring somebody else up, guys. Hello.
Hello.
How you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Just kind of in a rush. I'm actually getting ready for work.
Oh, you got a story for us?
Huh?
You got a story for us?
Yeah, well, I'm actually about to go to the most haunted location in my town, which is where I work.
Oh, man. What is that?
I work in home health, and so the house I work at is actually very, very haunted. It's not just me, it's the residents and the coworkers. Everyone has had at least 1 to 4 paranormal experiences a day. Like, so the
Wow.
main one that jumps out to me for that is I work overnights, so
Mhm.
sometimes my eyes do play tricks. But when I know there's no one up, and I see this skeleton figure sitting on the couch, I wave thinking it's one of my patients. I'm like, "Hi, how are you tonight?" It waves back. I turn on the light, there's nobody there, and all my residents, I did a bed check right after, are in bed.
Oh, geez.
And I'm like, okay, that's enough of that. Time to go back to the office and hide. But they really
Yeah,
don't
that's creepy.
they're not harmful, they're more curious, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But they do affect one of my residents. He has woken up with scratches on him.
Mhm.
And we don't know, but the doctor's also thinking it's plain, like it's their mental illness because they all have some sort of mental illness going on.
Right.
But when every one of my coworkers are confirming this to the doctors, like, well, then it's not your mental illness.
Yeah.
And we've all seen shadows walking, and we've seen them walking around in broad daylight when no one is up. Like, I've seen them when I'm cooking breakfast at 7:30 in the morning.
Oh, man.
They don't
Do you
harm.
have,
They
I'm
don't
sorry,
mess.
do you
They don't mess with me because I'm the practicing witch of the house.
have, oh, okay.
So I always have protection spells or wards around me.
Yeah.
They just like interacting with us for some reason. But I've been seeing spirits my whole life, so it's not it's normal for me to see them.
Right. Do you have like a your scariest story you can tell us from working in this place?
I've worked in a lot of places, but the one I worked in the scariest is where I think I saw like it kind of looked like Papa Legba from American Horror Story.
Yeah.
And this was in a nursing home, and I saw it right before a patient actually died.
Oh, geez.
She was gone like 4 minutes later, which is scary enough, and it was on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, puppy. I will see you in the morning. Sorry, I had to say goodbye to my dog before I go to work.
Real quick, Tully, I don't know what's going on with that. I didn't mute you. I'll go ahead and mod you from this account too, though. So were you talking about a nursing home? Did you say?
I work in a home health care, but I've had worked at nursing homes before.
Yeah.
So I'm in like a residential care facility right now, and I don't know the history of the grounds it's on, but we all think it's on a burial ground of some kind. Or a former burial ground.
Well, I was going to say, my sister, she worked in a nursing home years ago, and she always had like really crazy stories to tell about how before a patient would pass away, they would always see, like, they thought, it was the angel of death or whatever, but just some type of entity.
Yeah.
So definitely very interesting.
But that's what it looked like
I've
to
heard
me.
a lot of people talk about that before, actually.
But that was just what it looked like to me at the time. It could have been what I don't know what the patient was seeing, but that's what it looked like to me. It just had like a top hat and had a cane, so I don't know if that was her husband maybe who already passed or what.
Yeah.
But anyway, I actually have to get driving, but I just figured I'd share that, but I actually do have to go.
Okay, alrighty. Well, we appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks.
Tully, I think I went through the settings just now, and it doesn't say that you're muted. I don't know what's going on. Are you? That's weird. I went ahead and set Folking Weird as a mod account too, so you're a mod from this account. That's weird. I don't know what's going on. I'll have to look at that after the stream.
I think she did it on purpose.
Huh?
Oh, nothing.
Hopefully he's still here. He can hear me. Yeah, it is strange. I don't know. Like, it's weird. Hopefully you're not comment banned or something, because sometimes that happens. Have you been commenting on things you shouldn't have been commenting on? I don't know. I have no idea what's going on. It shouldn't be doing that. So let's see. Do we have anybody waiting? No. Okay. All right, everybody. Guest box is open. Haven't been talking any trash. Okay, good. I don't know. That's so weird. Maybe it's like a glitch or something. I'll have to go through the settings here because that's really strange.
Somebody asked me if I've ever seen a ghost in an abandoned house. No, but I've told my story before of when I heard something scream in an abandoned house. Sarah, have you ever seen an apparition in an abandoned place?
You go ahead and tell yours because I'm working on my settings real quick, if you don't care.
Sure. So I was with a friend and we were in his parents' old house, which was abandoned at the time. And we were just kind of there hanging out, smoking cigarettes, and we were getting ready to leave. and this place had like a really weird energy. And in the main bedroom of that house, on one of the mirrors, there was like a print that looked like a face that just kind of appeared there out of nowhere one day. So anyway, we were getting ready to leave, and we just hear like the weirdest, creepiest scream come from inside of the house. Like it definitely was inside the house, and it just, I don't really know how to describe it. Just it kind of sounded like a demon screaming, and it was probably one of the creepiest experiences I've had personally. And I kind of froze for a second, and we booked it out of there really quick. So I think that might have been worse than seeing something, but yeah, it really kind of scared me. So yeah.
Holly was asking you a question
What?
in the comments. Um,
Was it a left-handed cigarette? No. Holly, why Holly's always after me?
I told you she gonna get you tonight.
I know. Give me a break, Holly.
Well, I just went through all the settings. Totally, I have no idea why it would be doing that. It's got to be some kind of weird glitch. I'll figure it out though, because that's so frustrating. I don't know.
Well, what did
I
he say
wonder.
happened?
What is it?
What's happening?
Tully can't comment from his personal account, and
Oh.
I haven't muted anybody. Um, so I don't know. Have you muted anybody?
I don't think. Yeah, no, I don't think so. Is there a way to check?
Yeah,
No.
I just went through and looked, and there's nothing that, you know,
Yeah.
it's weird.
I'm gonna mute Holly. I'm just kidding, Holly.
All right, guys. Guest box is open. Also, I wanted to tell you guys, Folking Weird in the comments, the mod account Folking Weird, that is a really cool channel. You guys should go check it out and follow. Um, yeah, so if you like, you know, the kind of stuff that I do, you'll like Folking Weird as well. Um, that is so weird. Yeah, I was wondering where you were at. I was like, well, I wonder where Tully is tonight. I didn't see any. That's crazy. I don't know what's going on.
Hmm.
We'll figure it out later. Hopefully.
Yeah, probably a glitch.
Yeah, I'd say so. TikTok has been pretty glitchy here lately. So, um, what's up? What did oh, did I miss stuff? Yeah, you've missed a bunch of good stories. We've had a ton of really good horror stories on tonight. Lots of scary, spooky stuff. Haunted dolls. Um, you have a question, Chris?
No, I haven't had an experience with a haunted doll, but I have a lot of Chucky dolls in my apartment, so I probably wouldn't even notice if something happened. I have a bunch of
Do you
like
want to?
crazy stuff. Huh?
You should show off some of your stuff sometime.
Oh
I'll
man.
like if you want, you don't have to, but
I probably won't right now, but I'll for anybody that's interested in that, I'll take a video tonight probably and post it on my TikTok if you want to go check that out. I'll do like a little tour of my living room.
yeah, that would be cool. I've got a ton of stuff that I tell. Yeah, paranormal stories, guys. If you have any stories, it doesn't even have to be paranormal. It can just be strange in general. Ghost stories, alien stories, cryptid stories, Loch Ness monster stories, glitch in the Matrix stories. Somebody's got to come up and tell a glitch in the Matrix story for Chris because he's been wanting one for days now, and it's his
Yeah.
birthday again, and
Yes.
and
It's my
he,
birthday.
yeah, it's always his birthday.
Hey, folks.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
So, th- I, I, I don't know how to really explain it, but say uh, I've had experiences with spirits, a lot of them. Okay, and I mean a lot. The first instance, I was 4 years old, right? I was at least this is the story my mom told me, or part of it, but I do remember a little bit of it. So I was 4 years old. I was in my bedroom playing with Legos. I look over and I see my grandpa standing in the closet. Now the weird thing is, my mom says I let out like this blood-curdling scream, and she came running to see what was up. So she's like, "Hey, what's going on?" I told her I saw my grandpa. Now the thing is, my grandpa passed before I was born, right outside of that window. And she knows that it was my grandpa because I described him so well. The police came out. Then they went to dig up his grave to see if he was still there. So that's the first one, my first experience.
Okay, did you have more that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah. Then there was another experience, and for this one, I really do promise I'm not preaching, but this was part of it. Like, see, uh, about 10 or so years ago, I came into the faith, right? And so that night, I'd received the Holy Ghost. I was going to unalive myself, basically, but here I am now, 10 years later. Anyhow, I go home, and it's like midnight, and I'm in my room reading a book. Suddenly, the lights go to flashing. They go flashing and then go dim, and I can see my breath. About that time, everything goes quiet in the house. There ain't a peep, there ain't a sound, nothing. And I look up, and around the corner, into the bedroom, by the bedroom door, I see this figure walk in. Kind of, it's like a weird walking, floating thing. Anyhow, it doesn't. Its head kind of fades in and out, and like there's this buzzing and hissing sound as it's approaching me, and it's got this like it's a pale blue chest. It's wearing black shorts. Below the right knee is like meat hanging, and this thing's approaching me. It has a knife in its hand, right? I don't know. This is the weirdest one of the bunch. And as it's approaching me, I'm shaking my brother's headboard. Now he's on the other side by the foot of my bed. He's on the other side of that headboard, and I'm like, "Hey, wake up, dude!" I was talking to him like with the same volume you would talk to someone face to face in like a regular conversation, I guess. So I was shaking that thing. I was saying, "Hey, dude, wake up! There's something in this room." He does not notice. It's like he is out to the world, and this thing's like right by the foot of my bed. I could reach out and touch this thing at this point, and I'm like, this is kind of weird and creepy. Nothing's going on, and my brother's not waking up. So what am I gonna do? So I go, in the weirdness of this situation, I'm like, I don't know what else to do, so I'm just gonna revert back to the one thing that makes sense because of the night I just had at that church service. So I'm like, in the name of Jesus, get out of here. That thing stops right dead in its tracks, backs up out the same pathway, and I haven't seen it since then. So yeah, that's two stories with the spiritual.
Very interesting. Well, we appreciate you coming up and sharing that with us.
I guess I've got a ton of stories of weird things I've experienced. The spiritual, like Bigfoot type stories too. I don't know. You want to hear a Bigfoot story?
Yeah. Throw us a Bigfoot story real quick.
Okay, I say it's Bigfoot, but I don't really know it was quiet, but it was dark out. I was with a friend. I was out hunting coyotes, and so this deer stand, it's got this ledge with these handrails on, like, up above the stairs. It's like a ledge. Anyhow, I was sitting there with my feet hanging off. Something tells me to go inside the deer stand and close the door. So I'm like, I'm gonna sit here a little bit, see what's up. That feeling persists. I get up, I go inside, really listening to that feeling, that gut feeling. I shut the door. Not even 30 seconds after I sit down in that chair, something goes to banging on the railing right by where I was sitting. Me and my buddy, we promptly leave because that was weird. There was nothing out there. We shined lights all throughout the place to try to see what was up. Nothing. Anyways, that's that story. Okay.
Alrighty, well,
be,
we appreciate you.
I'll be quiet now. Later.
Thanks for coming up.
Yeah.
Get Ollie up here.
Hey, Ollie.
There's actually other people I think waiting in line, so I hope I didn't jump. Is there anybody else?
No, actually, there was, but they're gone. It always happens. There'll always be like a cluster of people come at the same time, and then I like try to get to them, but they all disappear.
Oh, okay. Well, I have a very delightful story for y'all today.
Okay.
It just, I don't know, out of somewhere, it just reminded me. It's my mom's aunt, and this was way back when in India. I don't know, we were just going through some albums, and the very thought, her story just came to mind. So this is when I was about like maybe 11 years old. So I visited India for the first time, and like a few weeks into the visit, we visited the other village over. Saw and my great aunt over there, God rest her soul. She wanted to take us to see, like, because me and my sister and a few of my cousins were very American, right? We've never been to India, so my great aunt, she took us to a nearby temples, and we went on like a little hike. We went like a carriage ride into like the little woodland pass because she wanted to really show us some remote areas that are very ancient. And so I went. We visited the temple of the Hindu god Chandra. The Hindu god Chandra is the god of the moon. So fun facts: he's the god of moon, plants, vegetation, treasure, and so on and so forth. So, what happens is we visited a temple. It was quite beautiful, very like, relic type, like a tomb raider kind of shit going on, like those kind of vibes, right? I'm an 11-year-old, so I was like, ooh, maybe let's go treasure hunting. So, we visited, and I'm walking up by myself here and there, and basically there's some monks that still clean the temple. Sages, I'm sorry, they clean the temple. They still practice there. They still worship. Fairly good condition, very old, almost 1,000 years old. So here's the thing. One of the sages gathered around, and we were just paying our respects and everything. And he gathered the kids around, because I was staring at this tree. And this is how it all started, because I questioned it. I was staring at this tree, and this tree had scratch marks on it. This was a big old tree, and it had like very deep scratch marks on it. And I was examining the scratch marks as a little Boy Scout would, and it seemed like I thought it was a bear or something. But now I'm like, I will just tell you guys, it's a 5 claws scratch mark. All right, 5 claw scratch mark, and both of them are parallel, like as in made an X, started up in the top together, both hands together, and kind of made an X as they were crossing. Now, I don't know if there's any kind of zoologists in here or people who are woodsy types. If y'all have seen scratch marks from a big cat, bear, or a wolf, they're not in patterns like that. They have patterns on certain trees to mark territory, but not like that. And kind of bloody. So I asked, I thought the tree was bleeding. So I asked one of the monks what was going on here, and he gathered us around and told us a story about this. He told us a story about a curse that happened there. He told us that there around maybe in the during the colonial times, the British colonizers were in India. Around like the early stages of that, there was people who visited the area and wanted to pillage the temple. Also, nearby the temple, parallel as in like two hands were right next to each other, and then they just went down as if they were crossing, making an X. And this was like 10 foot tall. Like it started 10 feet tall. But yeah. So he was telling us kind of, maybe, I don't know. It's like if you would put your hands together. Like, it's not like an animal. Perpendicular, possibly. But yeah, so he was telling us a story about around that time. And basically, he said there was pillaging happening. The early villagers, they were shot and killed that lived not too far away from the temple. And then there was like plants. Herbs were grown at the base of where the temple was as honoring to the god and as basically life-saving, medicine. They basically trashed the place, took the offerings of pearls and treasures from the temple and, whatnot, and basically, burned the place. They were kicking candles or like incense everywhere, and it kind of like just started burning down the place, which was horrific because a lot of people died. A lot of the animals died in the fire that spread to the village. So basically, and they shot people because they were trying to defend the temple. They took it, these men, it wasn't just white British men, there were other people too. They were around a campfire, and what was happening is the monk said that the Lord Chandra, the moon god, was extremely, extremely furious. And it is known in Hindu faith that he doesn't get furious so often. So they were around a campfire, and what happened is the god had revenge on these men and couldn't get to all of them. So he sent a steed or something down. I forgot I'm trying to remember the story as, to translate it from Hindi to English. But what happened was he sent something down that basically was a monster or smoke monster, and the moon energy bit one of the men. And so what happened was one of the men started to have a fever. The fever then transformed him under the full moon, not into a werewolf, get this, into a werecat, more like a tiger, a humanoid tiger, to seek revenge and to kill all the others that were around. Blood has to be given back to the land in order for growth to happen again. So this man, I forgot if it was one of the British guys or who it was, but he turned into a were-tiger. He was not human and he was not tiger. He was stuck in between both, is what the monk said. He went on a rampage and he killed every single person that was very, very, particular and responsible for that, sabotage and that massacre. So all in all, that's the were-tiger pillage and everything. And once he was done, it was a sad thing. He tried to come and ask for forgiveness, but he was stuck in the state forever, day and night, always a monster. There was another temple nearby, temple of the Surya god, which is the sun god. And because of the efforts of protecting the forest and enough blood sacrifices were given, the sun god gave him a choice to change into his human form for one night. One night under the full moon, he can change back to human form. And of course, he can have, that energy back. But he was warned that he ever took a bride or if he ever fathered children, that they would actually pass this, they would become the same. They will not be human. So this was, something for him to, forever guard the forest. This guy was cursed. And the villagers say if you ever hear, like, day or night in the dark of the forest, a roar that doesn't really sound like a tiger's roar, sounds like a human voice is also behind it, they say that it is that creature that is still cursed and is guarding the temples. So if you ever go into the forest wanting to poach or wanting to pillage or steal from the temples, know that the vengeful spirit will come after you, and well, you'll be shred apart. And so following that, my great aunt told us a secondary story. She's like, it's true, because 30 years ago there was a family who stole from one of the deeper temples, from a Hanuman temple in the forest, and well, they were all found massacred the next day, ripped apart. But it doesn't seem like a tiger would have done it, or a leopard.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. I love stories like that.
That was the old grandma's tale story. So I wanted to tell you that. Oh, and Lisa, sorry, wanted to just let you know, salt, if you mix it with basil and rosemary and smoke incense, like ash incense, and you can like make a circle around your child's bed, so you can they can be protected, like a barrier would be protected. Make sure you just put in your energy and your prayers. It'll help.
Yeah, so there you go. Listen to Ali.
Okay. Anyone else? I'm gonna hop off.
All right. Well, we appreciate you as always. Always love to hear your stories.
Of course, no problem.
Have a good night. Let's see.
Oh, we got a guest.
What is it?
Oh, we have a new guest.
Yeah, never seen this one before, I don't think.
Hey, Ninja.
It's not connecting on my end.
No.
Ninja, I'm gonna drop you. If you want, you can come right back. It wasn't connecting. Wow, that was a really cool story. I just absolutely love those types of old stories from, different
Yeah.
cultures and stuff. I could read about that stuff just nonstop. I love it so much. And Ollie's so good at telling those types of stories too. I guess
Once
Ninja
upon a
is not coming back.
Do it, Sarah. Do the guest boxes open, people.
Man, I'm too tired. I'm running low on energy tonight. I told you it feels like a Wednesday. Hello and welcome. Got a spooky story for us?
I've got a story that kind of spans my family's history. My it started with my great Theo, my uncle. He was traveling from one town to another. And during his travel, it was late at night, and this was a horse-drawn carriage. So he's going across a bridge, and he hears something behind him. When he turns around and he looks, he sees this woman that's in white. She's got black hair that's covering her face, and she's just sitting back there amongst all his items that he had purchased that day. He turns around, makes a sign of the cross, and starts to pray the Lord's Prayer. And when he turns around, she's gone. That was kind of the beginning of some of these things that had happened. My tia, when she was a little girl, she was at her grandmother's house. While she was at her grandmother's house, she was playing in the living room. She heard a knock at the door. So she gets up, she goes over to the door, opens it, and there's this lady in white that is just standing there. She can't see her feet, and she can't see her face because she's got this black hair that's covered her face. And the lady asks her where her grandmother is. So my tia, she goes back and she says, Abuela, grandmother, there's a lady here at the door for you. So her grandmother goes over and looks to see who it is. Doesn't say anything, runs back to the kitchen where she was at and grabs a deal of salt. She goes back to the front of the house where the lady's standing at the door, and she throws the salt at the lady. And she does a sign of the cross as she's throwing the salt. And she starts praying as she does it. The lady doesn't say a word, she just turns around, and then she walks off into the distance over where there was a natural spring that comes up by the house that they were at. When I was in my 20s, my grandmother had passed away. The drive from where I live to my grandmother's hometown was about a 3-hour drive. So I'm driving. It's late at night, and I'm probably about 40 or 50 miles outside of the town. And I'm going through one of the smaller towns that is along the way, and there's a draw that I have to go over, a rather large bridge, and I have no idea why, because there's not a body of water there. But as I'm going across it, I turn over and I start talking to my wife at the time. And when I look back, in the middle of the road, I see this woman in white just standing in the middle of the road. And as I'm driving past, she's turning with me as I'm driving past. It's like time slowed down. And that's one of the things like that has happened in my family, that this woman seems to appear to different generations.
You don't happen to have any old family photos, do you? Like really old ones? You could look and maybe see if it's a ancient relative or something.
Did. And I've gone through some of those old family photos. Some of the photos go back to my great-great-grandfather, so I've never seen anyone that would resemble that, all white with black hair. The closest thing that I can actually come to is because it includes a body of water. If you know any of the old Hispanic traditions, especially you, Chris, being over there in El Paso, then you've probably heard of the Llorona. My theory is that somehow she could be the Llorona, and she's somehow tied to my family if she keeps appearing to my family members.
I am familiar with that myself. Chris, seems to have gone off the app for a second. Are you with us, Chris?
Yeah, sorry. I'm getting some medicine from the cabinet because my girlfriend's sick, but I'll be right back.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the one story that I was gonna share. I have several more, but I'll share them as I come in and out of your lives whenever you broadcast.
Alrighty. Well, we appreciate you. Thanks. Oh, I wish Chris could have weighed in on that. That was really interesting. Amanda Lynn, come on up. I feel like I need a little theme song like the game shows. Do 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 do. Uh-oh. Amanda, you're not connecting for some reason. We'll give it just a second and see. Amanda, I'm going to drop you down. Come right back if you want, but it wouldn't connect. So I'll wait a second for you if you want to come back. Yeah, Lisa, I agree. We always have a lot of really good stories on here. It's very cool how many people are willing to come up and take the time to share stories with us, and it's really neat. Okay, Amanda, I don't see you, but I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next person, and if you want, you can come back whenever you can. Hello and welcome. Hello, hello.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh,
Not connected.
SpaghettiOs.
Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs.
Little Green, are you with us? Going once, going twice. It may have been an accident. I'm going to drop you. If you want to come back, feel free to jump back in the box. Yeah, everybody. I saw somebody last night said, "Are you napping or are you tapping?" And I was like, "That's pretty good. I like that. We're gonna use that from now on."
Yeah, that's a good one. Oh, Sarah, I was gonna ask you, you know how apparently there's like different types of aliens? Have you heard of the aliens that are like people and they're dressed all in white and they have like white hair and stuff? I forgot what they're called.
Yeah, the Nordic aliens.
Oh, is that what they're called?
Yeah.
That,
You know, I don't know. You know what I think about like alien visitors. I feel like I don't know. I want to believe that the little grays or the tall grays or whatever have
uh-huh.
potentially been here. But I feel very strongly that the UFO sightings that we have are like unmanned drones.
Right.
Um, I, I don't know. There's so many really fascinating cases where people saw grays. So I feel like if maybe if there are alien entities themselves, like actual ETs, maybe it's them. But all of this other stuff that like the blonde haired, blue eyed. They call them something else now. What is it? The Pleiadians. They call them that now, but used to they called them like other stuff. I just don't know what I think about that. I feel like it's I don't want to get on a soapbox, but I think we should just stick with little grays for now, or like maybe tall grays.
Yeah.
um, in the vein of grays. Oh, interesting, Tully. Yeah, and it's funny, like some of the best UFO cases and like extraterrestrial cases, they were just very plain little creatures, just and maybe the gray appearance with the big eyes and stuff, like maybe that's their astronaut suit. You know what I mean? Maybe
Yeah.
they don't look like that underneath. So, let's see. John, we've got John. Let's bring up John.
Hey, John.
Hey guys, nice to meet you. This is my first time finding this live. How cool! It's a new favorite. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
I do have a story I'd like to share. I always have a lot of stories. I find that people that have experiences tend to have lots of experiences over life. I just want to share one story.
Okay.
I moved to Minnesota about 10 years ago. And I'm a believer, obviously, because I'm one of those guys with lots of experiences. But I was with three friends that are all three skeptics. They don't really believe in much of anything at all. And we got this one friend, even though he's not a believer in anything, his favorite holiday is Halloween. And so every Halloween, he wants to take like a special Halloween themed trip. Usually it's something in the state or a neighboring state, right? Some old historic place, some cave tour, something that has some legend involved. That's our tradition as a group of four friends, right? So this one year we decided to go stay at the Palmer House, which is in Sauk Center, Minnesota, SAUK Center, Minnesota. It's a historic hotel. It is billed as like one of the most haunted hotels in Minnesota. So, of course, I'm thrilled and I'm just dying for something juicy to happen. And so I even book against my partner's wishes, who claims that he believes in nothing. I even booked like the most haunted room in the hotel, right? I was like, I want the one where everything happens. So we got lucky. We got that one, and nothing, absolutely nothing happened in that room. Zero. But something did happen in the hotel. So you can take a tour for extra, and you can go on these guided tours down to the basement of the hotel. And I wouldn't really say that what they do is like a seance, because I think that would be inaccurate. But they do try to reach out to the spirits of the hotel and invite them to make contact or communications, right? So the four of us are on this tour, and a lot of people are experiencing things down there in the basement that I'm having some experiences of. They do turn out the lights. You really cannot see your hand in front of your face at all. And a lot of people are hearing growls. I didn't hear those. But some people are getting touched. I was getting touched, certainly. And there was no space for a person to be behind me, because literally I was sitting like just inches from like the stone wall of the basement. So there couldn't be anybody standing back there. But, they would turn on lights and we'd look around and confirm what we're feeling and experiencing. But one thing that was so fascinating about the basement is it's literally pitch black, and all of a sudden I look just to the right of me, because being in the dark is disorienting, and I'm seeing like this green glowing mist just kind of hovering in the air. And I say aloud, hey, does anyone else see a green glowing mist, or is that my eyes like playing tricks on me in the dark? So other people chime in, they're like, yeah, we see that. We see that green glowing mist. And so then the guide turns the lights on in the basement, and like there's nothing that could be causing this green glowing mist whatsoever. We can't find any like rational explanation why it would just be kind of hovering and glowing there up near the ceiling. So she turns the lights out again, and she goes back to talking to the spirits, and it reforms green glowing mist again. So this happens like 3 different times. And eventually the tour is over and everyone's kind of talking about it. And that night at dinner, all my friends are like, that's just part of the shtick. Like they've got like a projector in the basement, or there's some special effect they do, because this is what they do. Like it's the haunted hotel, right? So they have to make sure something haunted happens. There's an explanation, John. You're so gullible, John. So Maybe I am. The next morning, because I wanted to give a cash tip to the tour guide, and during that tour, I didn't have cash on me, and so I made a mental note like, oh, before I check out of here, I'm going to give a tip to the tour guide. And I'm waiting politely behind the tour guide to give her a tip, and she's talking with another staff member, and she doesn't know I'm standing behind her. And she's telling the staff member, like, oh, yeah, it was so interesting. You know, this has never happened before. But there was this green glowing mist in the basement, and we turned the lights on like 3 times, and a lot of the customers were seeing it, and I was seeing it clear as day. Now this just confirmed for me, because she doesn't know I'm standing behind her, and she's sharing this with the staff coming on to relieve her about this experience. It says to me it was not some trick, it wasn't a camera, it wasn't something in the basement, like it was a genuine unexplained experience. Of course, I went back and told my 3 friends at my partner, like, oh, you are so silly, you're just so cute and gullible. And so, nothing was going to make them believe that what they saw was real. But that's one of my stories. Thanks for letting me share that.
Yeah, thank you. That was a really cool one.
Thank you.
Thanks. I totally get that too about, like places that, they advertise themselves as paranormal and haunted and spooky. And so, yeah, you might think that potentially, they might pull some strings here and there and make something happen. But, yeah,
Oh yeah.
that sounds really, it sounds a lot like some paranormal pictures that I've seen in my day. That was the first thing that came to mind as they were telling the story. Is a lot of entities that I've seen pictures of, like really actually good pictures, they do look like a mist. Very strange. You know.
Yeah. The mists are boring to me. I want something more exciting.
You don't like them old mists, do you?
Nah, I'm over it.
All right,
Do it,
guys.
Sarah.
Guest
Do
box
it.
is open. Guest box is open. Chris wants a glitch in the Matrix story. Come on, guys. Tell us one. Do one for Chris. Oh, that's kind of creepy, Betty. Float across the backyard. Was it a
Hmm.
pretty paranormally active place?
All right, guys. We're gonna. I guess since there's no guests, we're gonna go ahead and continue with what cryptids I think I could take in a fight. Let's see. Which ones haven't we covered yet, Sarah? Did we do the
Um,
frogman?
let's just do them all again. Just start over.
All right. Well,
Start
I
at
feel
the
like I could.
beginning.
All right. I think I could take the chupacabra. Maybe. Maybe that one's a
I don't,
maybe. I'm not too sure.
yeah, I don't know. It's got those spines on its back. It could like get you from every angle. It's got big teeth, big claws, spines on the back.
Yeah. All right.
Good night, Harry.
Yeah, frogman. Maybe. Yeah, I would say frogman. It depends. How big did they say? It was.
Well, now you remember last time we did talk about Frogman because you remember I
Yeah.
told you like where frogs are kind of greasy when you try to tackle him and put your arms around him, it's going to be like he's covered in lard and he's going to slide right through.
Oh, that's
So,
true. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, maybe I can just hit him with my car. If you guys don't know, Sarah ran over a dog man with a car. So that's your host right there, running over cryptids with a car.
You know what? I don't know that it wasn't an alligator. I mean, I don't know what the hell an alligator was doing in eastern Kentucky, but
Yeah,
it
I
could
don't
have been
think
an
so.
alligator.
What's a squonk?
Whatever it was big.
Hey, Large Tails.
Hi everybody, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing?
All right, as usual, I got a handful of stories for everybody. Um, there was somebody in the comments earlier that was asking about seeing spirits in an abandoned building. I don't know if she's still on. I wrote her name down. It was Desaya. But anyways, so this story, I don't know if I've told it here. I may have. If I have, then I'm sure there's somebody that hasn't heard it. But so I was a kid. So it must have been about third grade or so. And there's this mission school. Well, see, this was where they took our people from the Blackfeet tribe, the southern Blackfeet in Montana, and they took the kids away from their parents and they put them into this church school, Catholic school, to basically strip the Indian out of them and save the person. You know, that whole horrible time. My grandpa went there. He was a student there, and he tells stories about it. Well, anyways, he always went to church there. After my grandma had passed in '86, he would always go to school there. And I mean, he'd always go to church there. And he told us, you know, you want to come down with me? We'd come with him. You know, sometimes my brother and I play around down there. Well, one time we went down there, I had a friend. He was a classmate of mine. He actually lived near there, and his folks were always going to church there. So I said, yeah, I'll go with you that morning. He woke me up, and I went down, and I seen my buddy, and we took off, and we started exploring. There used to be a boys' dorm there, and there used to be a girls' dorm on the other side of it, too. And so the boys' dorm, that's got a lot of stories in it too. That place has got a lot. But they're all broke down today. They're all demolished. They ain't there anymore. It's just the church that's still standing there. Anyways, we stayed away from that boys' dorm and went to that girls' dorm. And we were exploring over there. We had never been in there before. And we wanted to go see what it was, you know, this is what it looked like. And when you first get in off of the bottom floor, it only had 2 floors. What we seen was it looked like I don't know, like a dining area is what it looked like at first, because we could see like this breakfast bar looking thing, like where there was a kitchen maybe a long time ago. And there was a dark hallway to the right of that. And that was the only place we could see that led up. And we were trying to explore up into this place. So I walked down the hallway. My friend is with me. And I only take a few steps, and then he grabs my shirt to hang on to me because it's dark, right? It's really dark. And I got my hand out as I'm feeling the wall, and you know, my left hand's feeling the wall, and I'm walking down the hallway, and my other hand's kind of in front of me just in case I hit something. It's kind of gonna protect me. Well, we start going down, and I finally get to this corner, and I peek around it, and there's stairs that lead up, and I can see light. And we were too scared to go back down through that dark place. I mean, we could see the light way at the end of it, but it was creepy. We didn't want to go back down there, so my friend took off ahead of me and ran up those stairs first, so I followed him up those stairs. And when we went down that hallway, we could see where the light source was. What happened was, one of the rooms, the whole ceiling had caved in, and there was rubble all over the floor. And there was a little bit of the ceiling left, but most of it was all on the ground, the floor of that room. And my friend goes into that room because it was the only one that had light, and I knew he was scared. He was so scared, he just like went ahead of me, like got on his belly, jumped down onto this little shed looking thing that had a chimney sticking out of it, and there was a tree down beside that. So he shimmies down to that, drops, and then he hang drops from the next part, which was about 10 feet up, and that's pretty high, right? That he falls down off of that, and he goes behind that tree. And I just stood up there in that room and watched him to see how he did it so I could do it. And I said, "Did that sting your feet?" I was yelling at him, "Did it sting your feet?" And he didn't come out from behind that tree, so I got down. I didn't want to stay up there anymore. I got down and jumped to that little one, which didn't hurt my feet, and then I got on my belly and I hung drop down to the bottom of the ground, and that stung. It really hurt my feet. But as soon as I got up, I'm kind of shaking out my feet, and I'm looking around that tree to find him, and he wasn't there. So I start looking on the other side, thinking maybe he ran around this way, but I didn't see him. So I was wondering, where the hell he must have just ran back to that church. He must have just been kind of creeped out, I thought. So I just start walking. I start walking past that tree and going back over to that church because I didn't see him. And just then, as I passed by that tree, my friend's up in that room, and he yells down to me, "Hey, did that sting your feet?" I got so scared. I just ran. I ran all the way to the church. I was so scared. There's no way he could have just ran back up there that fast. There's just no way. So I didn't know what to make of it, but I ran from it, and I ran back to that church, and I got in there and I sat by my grandpa, and I didn't even want to talk. I was kind of shook up by it, right? I just grabbed his arm and just got close to him. And after church, my friends' folks, they always sat by the door, and we had to pass him on the way out. Geez, I just dreaded it. And he looked at me, and he was motioning me over, so I went over there, and he says, "What happened?" He says, "Where'd you go?" I said, "Man, and I told him what happened. We kind of broke off with the other adults, and I told him what happened, and he says, "Wait, no, no." He said, "When we were going down that dark hallway," he said, "I lost you. I lost you down that dark hallway, and by the time I got up into that room, I already seen you walking past that tree down there. So I asked you if it stung your feet." So that's my spirit in an abandoned building story. And so moving on, I get another one about this fire spirit. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of these things. They're elemental spirits, and so this happened on my wife's family ranch. They were all out, and there was a garden down by those corrals. Just like have carrots and whatever down there. But anyways, somebody looked up and pointed up above this hill here that was just on the other side of that little corral and garden thing. Well, anyways, as they looked up, they seen this light. They couldn't really tell what it was till they really got to looking at it. They all kind of stopped what they're doing, all stared at it. Imagine a man on the moon. Those pictures, video of men on the moon when they're bouncing really slow and just going. That's how it was. That's how it was running. And it was all made of fire. Also, imagine a man just totally lit on fire, arms, legs, and a head. And it just bounded slow down, and then finally went over that hill. And everybody seen it that was down there that day. And they went and told the old guy, and he says, "Yeah, it's one of those fire spirits." He says, "Oh, pay it no mind. It wasn't bothering us." So they just carried on with their day. And this next one is about a rock. There's also rock spirits. And this one here, same ranch, but one of the grandsons of this old man was riding back. What he was doing was chasing horses, and he was chasing them in from that lake, a place called Four-Horn Lake. He was chasing them up from there and over that ridge back down into the corrals. Well, those horses took this turn, and they went into this other coulee, and he thought, "Well, I'm going to ride up on top, and maybe I can see him," and then cut back around him. He was trying to avoid having to circle all the way back around. So he just kept riding up to the top of this hill, to this ridge. And he seen this rock sitting there. It was weird. He said it is an odd shaped rock. He says, I got close to it, and my horse started really acting up, started really balking, didn't want to go that way. He said, so finally I just kind of like I was trying to get around it, like, because I had to go by it. So I was just trying to swing wider around it. He said, then it pulled his head up like that and looked at me and said, "Hey," he says, "my horse went to bucking." He says, "It knocked me off. I hit my head really hard." He says, "I got up and I looked all around." And he says, "I seen it. It start running. It start running over that hill where he was at. It ran over that hill." And when he finally got his horse and he started looking around for it, he couldn't find it. It was gone. But he ended up getting the rest of his horses, and he made it through, and that was, whatever, the day was saved. But he ran into one of those rock people. And that wasn't the only time. He ran into another one around that same area, just a little bit, I would say, north of there. This thing looked like a person standing there, right? And when he started riding toward it, it started running, and he thought it was one of his cousins. So he started trying to catch it, and he was running up to it. He says, when he got over that hill, because it was man-sized, kid-sized, but when he got over that hill, he watched it run down, and as it ran down that hill, it shrunk into the size of about a foot tall. Then it just turned and dove straight into the bank of dirt and was gone. Yeah, those are those rock people. That's some of those elemental stories that I have. So this one here is it's a strange story. This is just strange, right? I've always thought about this, and so here was this spirit that used to be around a long time ago. His name was Napi. That means old man. And he went around and did a lot of things. Every tribe knows him. We call him Napi. Other tribes might be a coyote, might be, the crow or the raven, or, he's a trickster. He's that guy they called a trickster. Well, when this guy was around in our country at the time, he would do things. He would travel amongst the people, and he was always, toward the end of his time here, he was always getting in trouble, doing things wrong. But anyways, before that, he used to create things, mountains, rivers, all these things. And what he used to do is kind of get tired and lay down in the prairie grass. He'd get up and he'd look at his imprint where he was laying, and he'd put rocks down around his imprint. You can still find those outlines like that of that person. And what's interesting about it is they're all like 15 feet tall. If you were to stand them up. I just always thought that was strange, and I wanted to share it because was Napi a giant? That's what I always think to myself, but I have no idea. And this is another strange story. So there's this place called Hole in the Wall. And if there's any Blackfeet out there listening from the Blackfeet Res and Browning, um, the area I'm describing is out in Blacktail. It's going to be east of Heart Butte. And so out here, I don't want to say exactly where it's at, but there's a place where there's this hole, and they got it covered now so cows and horses don't fall in it. But one time my brother-in-law was over there, and he threw a rock down there. He said it just kept going. He didn't hear when it ended. It just kept falling. You could hear it clattering off of the sides of the wall all the way. Then it just lost sound. He didn't hear it hit or nothing. Big rock too. But the story that they have about it was, here was this guy one time. I guess he was, if I remember right, he was a non-native. And he was curious about that hole. And he took a bunch of rope, and he got himself down into that hole. But after a while, he comes scrambling back up. I don't know how far he got, but they say when he went down there, he come back up, just shook up, saying, saying there was something down there that looked like a cricket. He says, but it was the size of a calf. He says, oh, I'll never go back down there again. And that place is really strange. And I don't fool with that place. I'm kind of scared of it, to tell you the truth. But I know where it's at, and I've been there, but I just don't fool with it. I would never go down there and mess around with it. And let's see, moving right along here. This is a UFO story now. Over into Medicine, this would be not too far from there, but going toward town. Actually, a couple of rivers over toward town. So my cousin was sitting up one night, and she called her friends down. This is way out in the country. And she called her friends down to sit up with her. She used to kind of night owl around, stay up late. And they were sitting up on that hill behind my grandpa's house. And they seen a fire. It's her friends got there. They were sitting in his truck, and they seen a fire over on the other side of there. Like somebody built a bonfire over there. And she asked her friend that, well, she had two friends there, a male and a female, and they were a couple. And anyway, she asked that boy, let me see your rifle scope, because he had a rifle in there. And she grabbed it, and she started looking at that. She said, hey, that ain't a fire. Because she was thinking they might have to drive over there and try to put it out. They didn't want it to take off if it was, something other than a bonfire that somebody built. And I started looking at it, and she could see this craft. She describes it as a disc-shaped craft. But there were little portholes on the side of it. And there was beings. She could see little beings in there, inside of it. And she described that rifle, and she handed it to that boy and said, look over there and tell me what you see. And, he was dumbfounded too, like, holy shit, what the fuck is that? Then that girl looked at it too. And anyways, this was about maybe, I want to say 11, midnight, and then next thing you know, when they quit looking at it and they were putting that away, hey, let's just go back down to that house. It was all of a sudden, it was like, I don't know, it was early in the morning. It was like midnight at that time. And then when they were going back down, I want to say it was about 6 in the morning. and they had no idea how the hell that happened. They lost time during that too. But they at first they seen a fire, but when they looked at it, it was one of those things, those star people. That's what they seen out there that night. And this other one takes place at that same ranch where those that fire spirit and that rock person was at. So one night they're outside. This ranch has a lot of stuff. You guys talk about Skinwalker Ranch, yeah. Try Bullshit Ranch. Anyways, they're all outside messing around one night, and they see this. The sky gets dark. It gets dark, and this craft was so massive because what it did is it blinked out all the stars, and you could see the stars really easy out there because it's way out in the country. Anyways, it sits in this valley, and that craft was so big. That valley, I want to say, is about a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile wide. And this thing come flying over, and by the time the front of it got to the other side of that valley, that tail end of it was just clearing where it started coming from. It was that big. And they said it was a circular shaped thing, but it was huge. It was huge. And okay, I got one last story I'm gonna tell. I just like to rattle these off so I'm not taking up too much time, but this one right here kind of gives me the shivers. So here was this man, geez, I hate to say his name, but he lived down in a place called boarding school, that Blackfeet boarding dorm. There used to be a white house when you get down the bottom of the hill. It was to the right. And if people know about that house where I'm from, then you'll know who this man was. And so my friend, I was doing flooring for him one day. I was redoing his floor, and he come in and he says, I said, look, I'll do your floor for you, but all I'll charge you is a full belly and a ghost story. And he says, I got a ghost story for you. And he was an ex-cop from a long time ago. And so he comes in, and I do his floor, and he starts telling me this story. He says, you know that house out there, the one I just described? And I said, yeah. He says, well, we got called out there, me and this other guy, and he named him. And he says, we got called out there to do a welfare check because, people hadn't seen him in a while. So we go out there, and he said, you see, it was weird because all of his windows, they had black plastic covering them. All his windows in his whole house, we could just see they had black plastic over them. He said, so we tried that front door first. We're knocking. They were jiggling the door handle, nothing. So we went around to the back side, and we tried getting in there, nothing. So he said, the guy that was with me is pretty big. He said, so he just put his shoulder into that front door and just plowed through it and opened it. And when they opened it, nothing but black flies come flying at that house. They weren't trash bags, they were flies come flying at that house. And once they got through that and it kind of cleared out, they seen him. He was dead. He was sitting on his recliner, and they could see, a weapon in front of him, and they could see blood splatter all across the ceiling. He unalived himself in there. And when they start looking around that house, the coroners came, everybody come, and they start doing a kind of a search of that house. They went downstairs to the basement. That's where they're going next. And on each stair, there was a braid of sweetgrass and a bottle. He said they were pill bottles, but he thinks there was holy water in them because it was just water. On each stair, a braid of sweetgrass and a thing of holy water. Went all the way down to that bottom, and there's a door down there. And that door was totally sealed off. It's like he had sweetgrass all around it. It's like he tried to bury or something in there. Tried to stop whatever was in there from coming out. And beside him there was a note. And that note, it read something like this, and I'm paraphrasing. They made me do it. They made me do it. And it was really sad because that guy was nice to us as kids. He was really nice to us, but we didn't even know he was getting bothered by something really bad in that house. That story always, I don't know how to feel about it. I feel sad and I feel like creeped out at the same time because, man, he didn't deserve that. He didn't deserve to go out like that. That poor man. Anyways, those are my stories for the night, and thanks for listening, everyone. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. Great stories as always. You guys be sure to follow Lodge Tales and check out more of his stories. We appreciate you as always.
All right. Well, good night, man.
Good night. Are you okay, Chris?
Yeah, I'm fine. I just had a few things to take care of, but I'm good. We always love Lodge Tales. He's a great storyteller.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. We do have a couple of people waiting. I was gonna call it after the Lodge Tales. We'll try to get through a couple more.
Hello.
Hello and welcome.
Hey, I've been to your pit. I've been listening to your lives a few times. A lot of interesting people come up here and tell some good stories. But yeah, I heard people were asking about glitch of the Matrix stories.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it kind of counts paranormal as well. So I think this goes back to 2020. I think during the spring, and I was helping around cleaning the house, make sure and help my mom, make sure she's okay. And this is before she passed away in 2022. So going back to that spring, I was just laying down ready to take a nap, laying down relaxing. Next thing I know, I'm not too sure if I was actually falling asleep or not, but next thing I know, I was looking up deep in thought, and I see at the top of the ceiling, there was a crack, and the crack came open, and I saw clouds and lightning, and I kind of saw some. I'm not sure it was sort of on vines or whatever. Then I saw a weird looking spider. It was blue, yellow, or gold. It was just a cool looking spider. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? So then after a while, I didn't see that. It just went away as quick as it came. It was literally just it was climbing down this vine. Kind of the web was coming out, and then it just kind of climbed down. I was getting closer and closer to me, and I blinked and it was gone. I thought that was really weird. So then I say about the following year. So I, for some reason, within 2 months, we lost 3 TVs. 3 TVs went out within 2 months, which is really strange. And when I was in my room, before the before the TV went out, I had this TV for about 16 years. And next thing I know, when I turn on the TV, screen went fuzzy, then was yellow, orange, and green. Next thing I knew, I saw across the screen we see you, we're watching, and I was kind of creeped out with that fact. I was like, well, what the hell's going on? Then I blinked my eyes a few times, and then it was gone, and the screen went back to normal. But I guess within a few days, the TV just went out, and our other TVs went out too. So we had to replace 3 TVs within 2 months, which I was really strange, which I thought that was weird. Then I'll get to this last thing. So after my mom passed away the following year, she passed away in March of 2022. My dad was really depressed. He got really sick. So then this is the time later on in the year. This is I want to say this is November, late November, really close to Thanksgiving. And I said, I was sitting there I'm sitting there next to him. He was having a hard time going to sleep because he kept feeling hot and cold. And I felt he was slowly able to go to sleep after we got the ice packs underneath his armpits. And the next thing I know, I was just sitting there, kind of watching him. Then again, I saw that weird spider come, a spider came down again, and the same blue and yellow golden spider. And I thought that was really weird and all that. So yeah, those are my glitch in the Matrix stories.
There you go, Chris. There's your glitch in the Matrix stories you wanted.
Awesome. No, I'm just happy somebody finally came up here and told on. I love to hear it. I love those stories.
So yeah, like that's what happened. But like like well, I kind of figure out like I'm not too sure if you guys believe in deities or whatever, but like I guess like that was one of the deities trying to contact me or whatnot, but it's still like a glitch in the matrix story. So yeah.
Very interesting. I've never heard
Yeah.
anything quite like that. That's really unique.
Right, yeah. Ali, I think like he means like glitch in the matrix stories as like like things that are just like like they're totally like out of place. Like you can tell like a difference between like something that's paranormal. Like paranormal, like it kind of like it's like it's seamless in like what's going on. A glitch in the matrix is something like it's not. It doesn't. I guess if I'm telling this right, it's not quite as seamless when it comes into the picture. Is that
Right.
about right, Chris?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a pretty good way to put it.
So yeah, like what I described, I really wasn't seamless. Like what was going on.
Right.
Okay, so like I'm glad that like I was able to share that with you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Yep, you're welcome. So you can call me Cryptic, you can call me Cryptic Bone Collector, or you can just call me Nova. I do scary stories on my channel. I've like only two-part stories. I find them online. They're like short scary stories like I would tell like within a minute or two. And like when people are asking me to expand on them and add my own little spin to them, I'm still trying to figure those out. And I've gone live like a few times. So you guys are more than welcome to come over and watch my lives. What I do is play creepy music. I do creepy facts. I find them online. Then I tell a scary story that I find online that's like a little bit longer. And and then like I play short scary story like that are animated, and then I open the floor for discussion, and like people could tell their own scary stories, or I just have like topic discussion questions and we can talk about that.
Well, thank you for coming up and sharing your story. We appreciate that.
Yep, I already follow you guys. But yeah, oh, thank you, Ali, for following me. So I'll be in the comments and watching. And you guys will see me more and more.
Alrighty, well, thanks again.
Yep, thank you.
Let's see. Why does it always get wild in here the later it gets? We got so many stories.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey, welcome back.
Yeah, hi. I just saw the story. You guys were talking about the glitch in the matrix stuff, and I'm super into what do they call Mandela effects. If I don't know if anybody like relates to that.
Chris, do you believe in the Mandela effect, or we talk about it sometimes? We have a person who's usually in here, and we talk about it a lot. But I don't know how many of us actually believe in it. But it's kind of cool. It's interesting.
Well, I have had you guys were talking earlier about the pterodactyl story, and I was like, I swear to gosh, I have seen a cowboy standing next to like a pterodactyl who's like like fully like sprawled out. And I was like, I have seen this photo before, and I have looked on the internet and I cannot find it. And I know I have seen it before and I cannot find it. And then there is like sources that say it's Mandela effect. You didn't really see it and stuff like that. So that's why I said it's a really short story.
Yeah, I've seen that picture before.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I believe you. Yeah, because I was like all into Thunderbirds for a while. So I looked up on Google pictures of Thunderbirds or whatever, and I think I know what picture you're talking about.
Exactly. We can all see in our heads, but we can't find it.
Yeah. Do you have any Mandela, um, you know, Mandela effects that you believe in?
Um, Mine, and I know it's super common, but it's the Star Wars thing where he's like, "Luke, I am
Oh
your
yeah.
father," but then he says something else. He's like,
He says, "No, I am your father."
"Yeah, that was the one."
Yeah, we usually, Sarah, we kind of agree that it's usually just bad memory, right? Or people
Yeah,
remembering things
exactly.
wrong.
Like that one was just bad memory. And then the one was with what was his name? The I'm really bad about sport people. Shaq. Yeah, Shaq was
Yeah.
a genie.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
right, in
genie
that movie.
movie.
I swear I thought I saw the movie, but then it was like, oh, it never came out. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm a 90s, like late 90s baby. And so I swear I thought I saw it, but it wasn't really a thing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
personally don't remember that movie. Do you, Sarah?
There was so it's Sinbad and oh I can't remember. I don't think I ever actually watched the one that does exist, but I am
Right.
familiar with this particular Mandela effect, and I mean I don't personally remember what is it like one of them's Shazam and one of
Yes.
them's Kazam
Yeah,
or
yeah,
Right.
something.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people, even someone in the comments is like, yeah, I watched it with Sinbad. It's so weird to me because I don't ever remember anything like that. And, just personally. But, yeah,
Yeah, there's
it's
always
pretty
like,
crazy.
yeah, there's always like, for me, I'm like, oh, okay, well, like it's not real. But the one thing that I do know is that I swear to swear to Bob instead of swear to God. I swear to Bob, I saw a cowboy standing next to the pterodactyl, and maybe it was Photoshop, but I saw it, and now I can't find it anywhere on the internet. It's just not there.
Yeah, that one was definitely fake, though. Though I think.
Oh, well, thank you for
Yeah,
confirming.
yeah, but we were just
Yeah.
talking about this. There's been sightings of those things. What are they called, Sarah? The
Um,
flying dinosaurs.
just pterodactyls or
Yeah, yeah. That there's been a lot of sightings of those things, especially in Tennessee for some reason.
So I used to watch a lot of Monster Quest. I don't know if you guys know that show.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like I said, I have a zoological background, so they're like there was a huge bird and they would describe it and they said it has a little white dot on the wings, and I was like, "Oh, that's exactly how a um oh my goodness, I forget his name now. California condor. That's exactly how they look from under, like if you're standing underneath it. But then they're like, oh, it picked somebody up and it carried them away. And I'm like, no. I've worked with California condors and I worked with turkey vultures. I worked with many vultures. And they don't have the foot strength. Their feet, they can't carry something away.
Yeah.
They're very weak. Their strength in terms of defense is their beak. They can bite like crazy. Oh my goodness. I got bit by a turkey vulture last week. Oh my goodness, it hurt so bad. but it's not the same as a raptor. Like we're talking like red-tailed hawk, a eagle. There's no comparison. They can't turkey vultures can't grab and carry something like that. So I'm very confused when there's like eyewitness people who say, "Oh, they describe exactly what a California condor looks like and the wingspan and everything, but the strength of the feet it doesn't match up because I have literally held these birds before. And truthfully, vultures, they stink. Like, my goodness, they stink so bad. I'm in like, oh, they eat dead things. And then when you try to confront them, like you're defensive or whatever, they throw up. Oh my goodness, it stinks so bad. So you can smell them.
Yeah.
So there's like the eyewitnesses and like it sounds like a vulture, but it's like it's the size of a raptor, and it's like it doesn't make sense. So for me, it's just as a wildlife professional, it just yeah, there's no connection.
Yeah. I have parrots. I don't know if they're anything like vultures. Sometimes I feel like they are.
Oh, what kind of
But
parrots do you have?
I have a cockatoo, an umbrella cockatoo, and then I have two budgies, and I have a cockatiel. And you were talking about being bit by a turkey vulture. Is it anything like getting bit by a cockatoo? Because that was one of the wildest experiences of my life.
Well, I have not been bit by a cockatiel, but I have been bit. Okay, I have been bit by a raccoon. I have been bit by a turkey vulture. I have been bit by a red-tailed hawk. I have been bit by a golden eagle. And thankfully, that was it. That was the end of my list. But I would think that a cockatiel, because their beak is so much more like big, it hurts more.
Yeah, I've still got a bruise actually. You probably can't see it on here, but my cockatoo bit me in October. I think it was October, and I've still got a bruise on my arm. It won't go away.
Oh my
So I
god.
don't know. Have a bruise forever, I guess. And now I'm terrified of him. And
Pineapples. So I have worked with many vet techs and veterinarians and also people who do like taekwondo and stuff. And the way to get rid of bruises is pineapples.
that makes sense. I'll try that. I actually have a pineapple that needs to be cut up. So
But you're brave. I would even with me, I work with wild animals. I would never ever 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 like keep captive birds. I would never do it because they like, oh my God, there's so many things that you have to do. Like, you can't pet them on their back, you have to pet them only on their head, and then you have to provide so much enrichment for them, and then you have to be there like 24/7. It was just, there's so many requirements. I can't do it.
yeah, it's a lot. It's like it's a job. I mean, and there's so little reward because most of the time they hate you. So
I know birds are like, I don't know if this is being muted, but like they're so pissy. Like they they hate everything.
oh yeah. Yeah, the only two that I have a good relationship with is the budgies. And it's like, you know what? If I ever have another bird, it's just gonna be budgies because I get them. I understand them. But the cockatiel and the cockatoo, I don't think cockatoos should be pets, honestly. But he's a rescue. He's like 30 some years old and
Oh
he
my
is the
gosh.
grouchiest old man. So but I'm
Yeah,
working with him, it takes a lot of patience, but he's a pretty interesting little creature.
you are so patient because so when I first like my in my tribe we don't like really, we don't really do birds. Like it's not like a normal thing. Like we like pets. Like only pets we really have is dogs and cats. And my parents were about to kill me when I came home with 2 rats. And the only reason I came home with 2 rats was because at the time I was working for a wildlife refuge, and we would do this. And I'm sorry if it kind of sounds mean, but we would do this thing called kill training, and we would get injured or orphaned animals and we would train them with live rodents. And so these 2 rodents, they were like for survivors. They were like oh my goodness, I don't know what they did, but they were like, they fought their way to the top. And we ran them through eagles, like golden and golden and oh my god, I can't think of words. Golden eagles. We ran them through great horned owls. It was like from a size. And then we ran them through red tail hawks, and then we like going smaller. We went to like kestrels, and then prairie falcons, and like these rats, they survived everything. And we're like, okay, like we didn't want to kill them. We're like, okay, well, what are you gonna do with them? So I was like, okay, I'll just take him. So I adopted these rats. They were just like survivors of this treatment. And so I took him home, and my parents were like, my parents hated me. My parents were like, okay, you're gonna put them outside, they're never gonna come inside. And then fast forward to a few months later, I came home from work one day, and my mom is over there feeding them like blueberries in the cage.
Oh.
And she's like, she's talking to them all sweet, and I was like, oh my goodness. And like, we're talking about like BIA, hardcore native, kids, like, just mean people. And she was so nice to them. Anyway, but yeah, so we would have these animals, and so it's just kind of different how the generations treat animals versus nowadays. I think the previous person said, was it lodge stories?
Lodge tales, yeah.
Yeah, lodge tales, yeah. He was talking a little bit about he said it really briefly, but he said like the BIA thing. So I'm second generation BIA generation. So BIA, and you guys probably heard this before, but my parents were essentially kidnapped when they were children, and they were taken to BIA schools, and they were like, he said that the Indian was beaten out of them. And my parents tell me, they're like, oh, okay, we would receive like regular beatings if we spoke our language. So they would receive this kind of treatment. So because of that, there's a whole thing about generational trauma and the way that, we treat animals nowadays. It's just kind of like a, what's it called? Oh goodness, I can't think of the word in English. Like a down, not like a downfall, but like trickle. Sorry.
Yeah.
I grew up with Navajo, like Navajo language, so I have a hard time sometimes with English. So I'm like trying to remember how you say it. But yeah, that's how it is with it trickles down. So that's kind of how it is with, how our relationship is with animals.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, sorry. going back to your pets. I'm sorry. So your birds. So, you said you had a cockatiel and budgies?
Yeah, I have two budgies, a cockatiel and an umbrella cockatoo.
Oh my goodness. So when I went to school, I like this wasn't part of my like I said, it wasn't part of my I didn't even know people kept birds when I first went to school. And I was like, "Oh my goodness." And people like my school was telling us like, like they're like this and telling us how to care for them and all this stuff when I was learning veterinary medicine. And then they told us about how long they live. And the longest one that they heard was what I heard was an African gray, and I was like, oh my, like 50 plus years, and I was like, I don't think I can keep an animal who lives longer than I do.
Yeah, it's intimidating. I think the oldest parrot that holds like the record or whatever was like around 100.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that is something else.
Oh yeah. And that's one reason that I really don't think that umbrellas and stuff like that should be pets. They shouldn't be domesticated because they get passed around a lot because like the one that I have, his original owner, from what I was told, passed away years ago. Years and years
Oh,
and years ago. So he's been kind of like moved around. So he's got some emotional baggage and stuff like that. And he's like I said, he's just a grumpy old man at this point, and I'm trying to figure him out, and I don't feel like I ever will.
oh, that can be really sad.
Yeah. I mean, it is, and it's like I just wonder, like, how many more years is he gonna live? Is he gonna have to, like, am I gonna be his forever home, or is he gonna have to find somebody after me? I don't
I
know,
know.
because they live forever, apparently.
Like birds and turtles. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's an amazing little creature, and he's so creepy because like in the middle of the night, if I make too much noise, I'll tell one more story and we'll get back to paranormal stuff, guys. Sorry. If I go into the bathroom and I make too much noise at night because his room is right next to the bathroom, I'll hear him in there saying things to me. And he's just got the creepiest little voice in the middle
Oh
of the
my god.
night. Like his name is Sugar. I think they named him that because they must have liked that song, Sugar Sugar, and that's a whole other bird story that I won't tell. But
Yeah.
I'll hear him in there. He'll be like, "Hi, Sugar," and I'll be
Oh
like,
my
"Oh my god, that's
god.
so creepy."
It is.
But he can say so many things. It's crazy, and he talks when he wants to, you know.
Yeah. So I have a funny story. So well, I can it's kind of funny. Anyway, my mom's friend had a parrot. I don't know what kind of parrot it was, but um she got this parrot, and she had dogs, and I guess like the parrot imprinted on the dogs. And so one night she was sleeping at home, and she was a single lady, and she heard like like she heard glass breaking, and she was like, oh my god. She was like, really scared, and she was certain somebody broke into the house. And she hears like men talking, and then the men are like talking, like some whispering or whatever. And she was like, she knew somebody was in the house, like there was an intruder, like somebody, trying to steal, like, or whatever. And then all of a sudden she hears her parrot go like, because he's only been around dogs, and he just like full on growls. And he's like, "Arr," like going all crazy. And then like the person's like, there's a dog in here. She could hear them, like she could, because the house was all dark, and she hears them say, there's a dog in here. And the parrot is like growling like a really big dog. And then she said she could hear the person run and like bust through the broken glass. And she was just like, could hear the person just running out of, and then she was like runs to the door. And she turns on the light, and then she sees a broken door, and she hurries and calls the police, and the police like show up eventually, and they're like, yeah, somebody was trying to burglarize your house, but I guess the parents scared them.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. That's a pretty good one. Oh my gosh. Wow. I've heard him do the dog voices. This one can do like a chihuahua bark, but he's way scarier by himself. So if anybody tries to come in my house, I'll just turn Sugar loose on him.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, as I've worked with many a Chihuahua, and I would be more scared of a Chihuahua than I would be of a Rottweiler.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I don't know how we got on to parrots that pretend to be dogs, but
I don't know.
oh gosh, sorry
All right,
about that, guys.
I'm
I know
sorry,
we're supposed to be
sidetracked
talking
everybody.
about. I'm gonna send you a follow, and I think I'm about to call it for the night because it's getting pretty late here. And but thank you again for coming up and talking with us. I really appreciate it, and hopefully you come back and hang out with us the next time we're on. I don't know what happened to Chris.
No, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Alrighty.
Okay. All right. Well, have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Alrighty, guys, it is about that time. I gotta cut it off for the night because it's getting super late here. Sorry, but I appreciate you guys. Appreciate you so much for coming up and sharing your stories. We will be back here next Sunday night for more ghost story live streams. Sunday and Monday, about 11 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget to send Chris some love for being the best co-host ever. I think Folking Weird. I don't think he's not on that account now, so I can't send you to him. But make sure that you follow if you're not following already. Turn on post notifications so that you get notified when I go live. And we will see you all next week, Sunday night, 11 p.m. Eastern. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us.